7 o'clock. I'm going to call to order the Thursday, August 21st, College Township Council Meeting. First item on tonight's agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. If you can stand, please stand and join me. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That takes us to public open discussion. This is the opportunity for anybody online or in the room to address council on something that is not already on tonight's agenda. Not seeing any online, not seeing any in the room, so we'll move to new agenda items. Looking first to my fellow council members. Any requests for additional items for tonight or future agenda? How about the audience? Request for an agenda item to be added either tonight or to a future meeting. Seeing and hearing none, that'll take us to our special presentation. Tonight we have one special presentation, SP1, PennDOT bridge work at East College Avenue and Hauserville Road. Seems like an ongoing endeavor, yes.
And we have two representatives of from PennDOT here to give us an update on this project. This is the project that would close the College Avenue Bridge. College Avenue stays open, but at the same time, Pike Street and Hauserville Road would be closed for a period during the summer. But we have John Tate and Linda...
Lori Gillespie.
Lori Molesky here to go over the project.
Okay. Who wants to take the podium? John or Lori? You can both do it. It's just another year and another main road closure in Vermont.
Same roads.
Different roads. Go.
We're run out. Exactly right.
Sooner or later, there won't be any more bridges in College Township to repair, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, the next one on my agenda is the one right here by the building. So, that's in a couple of years.
And don't misunderstand. We're grateful for the opportunity to do this. We know what the alternative is if it doesn't get repaired. It gets closed.
Okay, this is like Don said, it is the bridge there by Hauserville and Pike Street intersection. It's the complete superstructure replacement. So we would have to close the Hauserville and Pike entrances. The detour would be, we have it scheduled for 100 days. I'm not sure if it's going to take that long, but there is, it would mean that Pike Street and Hauserville, the Pike Street would go from, would be a 1.5 mile detour. And, I'm sorry, Hauserville would be 2.5 mile detour, Pike Street would be 1.5 miles. So it increases their commute by about 3 minutes.
How many minutes?
Pardon? 3.
How many minutes?
Well, according to the Google map, it says 3 minutes,
Okay.
3 to 5 minutes, okay? So, of course, it depends on the traffic that they have to, but that's how much Google said it would increase. So, what he's showing now is the one for Hauserville. So we would take Town Road back to College Avenue, and we're going to have a temporary traffic signal there. Do you want to address that at all, or?
Yeah, sure, I can talk about we have the Hauserville detour plan shown on the screen right now for everybody. So what we did at the department is we took a traffic count currently at Town and College Avenue, and then we took one, and then we redistributed the counts based off of closing Hauserville and Pike Street. What will that do to Town? And then we looked at traffic signal warrants, and with those additional volumes, that warrants a traffic signal during this detour. So as part of our bridge project, we will be putting in a temporary signal that will be maintained by our contractor, that will not be maintained by the township. And then as soon as that detour gets lifted, that signal would come out and the intersection would act as it does today.
I didn't make a copy of the detour that would take you down Elmwood, and the only reason I didn't is the same thing that we've done the last 3 years, basically, so, sorry about that, I didn't think we needed that one.
Now, with the Hauser building, road being closed, I believe you guys have a sidewalk.
Yeah, we're looking to,
That would help.
yes.
We get the sidewalk construction done.
Yeah, we're looking to do from College Avenue, where the sidewalk ends now, over to the entrance to Spring Creek Park. So we want to piggyback on the fact that we won't have near the traffic to deal with while Hauserville's closed.
The current signals at the intersection would be in flash mode during construction. There will be a phase when the crane has to move over closer to the edge of the shoulder of the road, that mast arm on the southbound will have to be moved or removed, and so it won't flash. But we will be maintaining two-way traffic on College Avenue, north and southbound. So that will change. We should be able to have access to all the businesses kept up. And we will have to coordinate with the CATA bus stops to see if that will affect them.
They're used to that.
Yeah. And we might have to place some, depending on the advanced, how far back the advanced signage has to be placed. We may be placing signs on the off-ramps from 322 to show that there's going to be some road work up there. It was suggested that we put no through traffic signs at the entrance to the wholesale fireworks to keep people from running through there. That is in our plan as well. I guess basically we also would like to request some night work to be done to condense the construction schedule. There's very little residential in that area. So I don't know if you need that in written form.
That would probably be best.
Okay.
Yeah, if you could just even an email with anything from the department, that would be helpful, and then council could consider that.
Okay, because that will condense the construction schedule.
As long as we're detailing dates and approximate times, those kinds of things, that would be helpful.
And if you guys are okay with the detour, then we'll start pushing that through our management team as well to get all the signatures and everything. I don't know, does anybody have any questions? This is my first council meeting, so I'm not really sure what all information you need.
I think you hit what we need. I think the big thing was the detour that would take people out to Puddintown. That's going to be, we'll get a lot of comments on that. Like I said, the detour through Elmwood, we did it 3 years in a row now. So people, and Adam is very joyful with that, but people are used to it. That one will be easy. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else really offhand that, we'll see what questions you get.
If I may, just for clarity, when you say you're going to keep the road open at the bridge, it's one lane each direction?
Yeah, it's one lane each
So
direction.
it's half-lane construction that you're doing at a time?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, then before we open it up to questions, just a clarification. You're going to need approval for the night work, council. Obviously, Puddintown and Hauserville are now local roads, so is there some official level of approval that is required for the detour, or is this a courtesy?
I think we should have an official approval of the detour.
Okay, and then as regarding Elmwood, is that local or PennDOT?
Well, Elmwood itself is PennDOT road. Pike Street is now a township road. So, again, I think that PennDOT knows that they're anticipating utilizing Elmwood Street. We could, for posterity, agree to detour on our portion of Pike Street.
Okay, then if they're submitting a written request for the night work, why don't we just weave that in, and that would be one way of,
So, yeah, so to go on what Eric just said, if you were able, as part of that letter, that document, that written request for the night work, if you were able to also request at that time the authorization of the township to utilize the Hauserville detour, that would be one part, and then the second part would be to utilize that portion of Pike Street that is in the township's control as well. And then, once that comes back to council, they can consider all of that at one time.
okay. Then, any further staff points made?
Well, I'd say all you'd have to do is reference as those detours as shown on the plans provided here.
Do you need any other paper copies? I have a couple more.
Actually, I did not give any to council, so if you could hand out the copies to council.
All right, so that can be an attachment to the letter.
We're going to send it.
Okay. Susan or Rich, questions, PennDOT? No?
Work fast. Work fast, work well.
Dustin? Tracy?
Yeah, I had one question. On the Pike Street closure, and it's not striking me, so the road that comes up over the hill behind the fireworks store, what's the name of it?
Lime Rock.
Lime Terrace.
So that will be completely open, it won't be blocking off Lime Rock, right?
Right.
Okay.
Tracy? All right, a couple questions. Following up on Dustin's comment, a sign that says no through traffic at the fireworks place, it's a nice thought.
Yeah, but they'll still probably still do it.
Yeah, but I mean, realistically, you might want to work with the property owner to see if you can put up a Jersey barrier or something, because I don't really think the sign's going to stop anybody from cutting through there. If that's the desire of this council, so to prevent that, I would suggest a more robust deterrent. And assuming we don't have any problem with and can handle the cut-through traffic we're going to see on Lime Rock.
It'll be interesting to see how bad it gets and whether we have to come up with some other measures. Maybe a sign that says no through traffic.
On Lime Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are sections, you know what I'm talking about, there are sections where if you got cars parked on the road and two cars coming.
No, that road's not made for a lot of traffic, so.
Then the timeline, you said 100 days, can you just go back to when you said you were going to start that 100 days? Did you say
Yeah,
that?
it's left in.
All right, another question while you're looking at
That
that.
date is February 12th of 2026. So then the notice to proceed will be 5 weeks after that, 5 or 6 weeks after that. And then they can start.
So we're like April, May, June window?
Yeah, yeah, we try not to start too early because of, until the state lets out. That's our goal. I don't know if we'll be able to get out of the schedule.
Well, there's another hitch in that whole thing, and that's a pretty big thoroughfare for school buses. Huge, that whole thing.
Yeah, I thought the talk was to try to basically, first day would be the day after school let out.
Yeah.
That's, I don't have a schedule
Yeah.
yet, but that's what our school is to not start until the day after Penn State closes.
Well, actually, I
What do you mean,
think
same-day
the
college?
idea was the state college area school district. I think it was.
Which is a couple weeks out. I was thinking like the
That's
first
exactly
week
the
in
way
June is what we
Elm
talked
as well.
about. So you have June, July, August, there's your 100 days.
No, you're good. That's a good point. So there's a suggestion or a request, or maybe a contingent approval for the night work.
Starting after the closing of school, state college area school district.
I mean, unless there's preliminary work that can be done without closures, right, but, yeah.
There will be some preliminary work. The median right now on 26 will be removed to do our switching of traffic to that something.
Is that included in the 100 days? Or the road closure is the 100 days?
I believe it was a road closure.
Okay.
Okay.
Two more quick questions. How close were we on the warrants at Puddintown without the detour?
Without the detour, you mean the 8-hour warrant, you need 6 of the 8 hours. And then with the detour, it's 10 to 12. So it's significantly greater.
All right, so I don't really know what those numbers mean, but it sounds like it didn't take much to trip that threshold.
That'd be correct. Any development that would happen in that area, I would be expecting a signal.
Just asking. And then last, I've been pushing for that sidewalk at Hauserville for about 10 years now. All we really needed was a PennDOT project,
Well, see, I waited for it.
and we'd have got the sidewalk done. Is that not true?
Yeah, I deliberately held that project back until this project came out, even though I had no idea it was going to happen.
Can we rephrase that? All we needed was 3 years of suffering? Road closures.
All right, we're going to leave that as good planning,
Yeah.
by our township engineer. Any other questions? All right, and questions for us?
Thanks a lot.
An email. The night work.
Yeah. And if you would consider our request regarding delaying the start of the road closures till the second week, approximately the second week of June.
I tell you what.
Hang on.
Sorry, I had one question. So in the event that after we do the no-through traffic sign on Lime Rock, and there is traffic that we would consider needs something like a Jersey barrier, is that something the township pays to do, or is that something that PennDOT does?
Is that on Lime Rock,
Yeah,
you're
so
saying?
it sounds like what we're saying is no-through traffic sign. So if we found down the road, a couple of weeks in, that there was just too much traffic on Lime Rock and we wanted to put up something like you mentioned, a Jersey barrier, I'm curious, is
I
that
don't
the
think we
township
could
cost?
do that, we couldn't do that on Lime Rock.
Okay.
They could ask the fireworks store if they would want
Okay.
a barrier, but we wouldn't be able to do that on the, we would have to come up with maybe just some kind of restrictions that make it uncomfortable to go through there,
And that's for the township?
Yeah, that,
Okay.
in all likelihood, any kind of control work that would need to be done on Lime Rock would be the responsibility of the township. That said, any kind of control work that's done in conjunction with the project for various safety reasons at the fireworks store should be something that PennDOT handles. That is not going to be an obligation of the township.
So who would contact the property owner then?
That's PennDOT.
All right, so that would be another request, if you could reach out to the property owner.
I believe you've already talked to them a couple times, haven't you?
Yeah.
They've been in contact.
If they're fine with the sign, then we're fine with the sign, I think. It's just a matter of how effective, as long as they realize this, there's no enforcement to the sign.
They might want to cut through.
Maybe they want the traffic, yeah.
June 5th, the tentative last day, but that's on the State College Area School District's website.
All right, any other questions before we let Brings the PennDOT up. Oh, it's it then.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you, John.
That concludes our special presentations, takes us to plans. Tonight we have one plan, P1, St. Ives Canterbury Crossing Final Plan Residential Plan. This is a potential action item, correct?
That's correct. So I have a brief presentation, and then I'm going to turn it over to the representatives that are here tonight from Pantera and from SNA Homes. Excuse me. All right, so this is a final planned residential development plan for Canterbury Crossing. The owner is Pool Family Limited, tax parcels 19605-106A. The property address is Asbury Lane, which is located within the Canterbury Crossing planned residential development. The proposal is for 26 townhouse units. The existing zoning is PRD. The site size is 5.307 acres. The proposed impervious coverage out of the allowable 70% is 37.42. Proposed parking, 80 spaces, required 65, and the density here is 4.9 units per acre. This is the next slide, is the overall record plan. So it shows the 26 proposed units. This is part of a planned residential development plan that has shown that this area has been, proposed for townhomes for a long time. We talked with the developer's agent at first. They requested, or we talked about a type of unit change. So we wanted to ensure that, that would be consistent with the tentative plan, and if that would require any major changes to the tentative plan. And the advice we received from our solicitor was that no, it's fine, we can move forward without an amendment to the tentative plan. So here we are tonight with the final plan in front of council. Because it's been a while since the PC has seen any plans for Canterbury Crossing, we did propose this plan to show this plan to them as a courtesy at their meeting early in August. They acknowledged that it was a final plan and agreed to, that it should move on to council. Open space has been established a while ago with a tentative plan, which includes a 4.5 acre site that's between Asbury and Scenery Drive, if you're familiar with the area. One thing I'd like to note is that we're receiving some public input on this. We do have some folks on the call tonight. I told them that if they called in, that they would, that there would be representatives from SNA here tonight for council's review. And we do have some final outstanding comments, a few stormwater comments from our stormwater engineer, and the addressing will have to be completed too. So that's really an overview of the plan. We have some landscape elements up there too. I wanted to highlight just some trees and shrubs that they're adding to the area. We're still working with them to make sure that the existing vegetation is adequate for the proposed, for the screening that they have for the headlights. So with that, that's all I have, Mr. Chair, and I do know that Tony Fruchtel is here from Pantera and some representatives from SNA Homes.
All right, Tony, anything else to add?
So I'm not Tony, but my name is Evan Heiser from Pantera. I'll give you a kind of a brief rundown of the plan, and I know it's going to overlap a little bit with Lindsay's presentation, but hopefully that's okay. So this plan is part of the Canterbury PRD that has single-family homes, condoed single-family homes, and townhomes. As you saw on the plan, located between Center Hills Golf Course, Panorama Village, Mount Whitney Middle School, and Fieldstone subdivision. On tax parcel 19-605-106A, which is 5.307 acres. It's located off of Asbury Lane, which is a public street. It has a sidewalk, comes off Brandywine Drive, and loops around. Also has an existing shared driveway with some parking along it here. And there are two
Evan?
access points.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. There are 2 access points to Asbury here and here. Those are going to remain. And those were built in the 90s whenever the first phase over here was done. The existing lot as it stands today is kind of in a meadow condition. It's mowed. Like I said, it has the existing driveway there. The utilities are in the ground. We plan to reuse the majority of those as much as possible. There was a plan for this that was proposed and approved in 2008. That plan has since expired. It also proposed 26 units, so it is essentially the same thing. The units have changed a little bit, but the intent of the plan is still the same. As far as the development itself goes, proposing 26 condominium townhomes grouped in 5 buildings. They would look fairly similar to the units on the north side of Brandywine Drive. As far as what the actual finishes and things like that would look like, that's still in the works, but they're going to be designed to complement the neighboring units in the area. These are also going to have 12 by 12 decks off the back of them as well. And each unit will have its own driveway that accesses the existing shared drive. Lindsay touched on the impervious coverage, but they allow 70% by ordinance, proposing just over 37%. The old plan actually proposed 42, so we're actually a little bit less than what was there before proposed. We're also proposing a mailbox kiosk that'll be at the end of one of the bays of existing parking, which is consistent with what was done further up Brandywine Drive. As far as infrastructure goes, are you able to go to sheet 6 on the plan, Lindsay? Utility plan?
Okay.
Or is Mike running?
I'll get you there in a minute.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Talk amongst yourself. Maybe.
Maybe you shouldn't have said that. but-
Yeah.
I need to throw you a curveball.
Technology's being my friend at the moment. So.
Next time Lizzie won't let you run it.
That's fine. Yeah, I currently have the spinning wheel of doom, so.
Oh, all right, I can try to help out here. It's gonna take me a while.
It's a really big file. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, I think it conflicted with the meeting too. It looks like it bumped me off.
I'm working on it here.
Thanks, Lindsay.
While we're waiting for the plan to come up,
Yeah.
Could you just speak to maybe what resulted in the reduction in impervious? It's not a lot, but 5%.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's largely just because the unit types changed. The old units had some shared driveways and sort of shared bays of parking, more similar to what's in the existing phase beside it. So it's really just kind of a layout change. It's minimal, but it's still less than what was there before, which is good. There we go.
What sheet?
You have them
Oh,
here.
there we go. What sheet?
6 would be great. Utility plan.
Utility plan, sheet 6. Okay, here.
Thank you.
we go.
Okay, so just kind of wanted to look at the utilities a little bit. So there are existing sewer and water service lines. They're already in the ground. The electric's already in the ground. The gas is already installed to here. We're proposing to extend it the rest of the way along the shared driveway and then run the service lines to the buildings. I've mentioned the mailboxes already. Any of the existing service lines that are in the ground now that aren't able to be used are going to be shortened and capped per the regulations of UAJA and the Water Authority. Not utility related, but I also wanted to note the existing access points off of Asbury are going to be modified slightly. Right now, there are two kind of boulevard-style medians. One of those is going to be removed and paved and striped. That was a request of the fire chief to make it more maneuverable for the fire trucks. So that'll be an improvement for sure. And then there are also lights in those right now. Those are going to be moved off to the side for the same reason, to try to reduce the potential for conflicts with larger vehicles. So that's it on utilities. Could you jump up one sheet to sheet 5, please? Thank you. Okay,
I know I changed it, but.
there it is. Okay, so just kind of wanted to highlight where the stormwater basin is. So the basin will be right here in this area. Then it will outfall into the existing storm sewer, which heads out toward the golf course now. It's also going to pick up some of the existing storm sewer that's already here for the existing driveway. So overall, it's going to result in a reduction of flows that goes out toward the golf course now. And I also wanted to note that there is an existing agreement in place for that discharge toward the golf course. We're also proposing a swale along the back of the units to help manage the water that can come off the back. So it runs along here, and it is picked up by the storm sewer system and goes to the basin. The water that runs behind these two units will do what it does right now, and it'll discharge out toward the golf course. So that's it for stormwater. Could you please jump to the landscaping plan? I believe it's sheet 7. Perfect. Okay, landscaping wise, there are 8 trees that are currently in the area where we're proposing the basin. Those are going to be removed, and we're proposing 8 new trees in their place. So currently, there's sort of a tree line that runs along the property line with the golf course. That's all going to remain, and 3 of the new trees are actually going to add to it. And then we're going to add 2 more in between the 3rd and 4th buildings. And then you can jump down one more page, please. The other 2 will go closer to the intersection of Asbury and Brandywine. And then the other thing landscaping-wise, which Lindsay already alluded to, we're going to add headlight screening. There is some existing vegetation here, and there's some along here. One of the comments we got from staff was to provide more information on what that landscaping is, so that's something we're going to work on to make sure it meets the ordinance, in addition to adding some more along all of those bays to provide the proper headlight screening for those. A couple more kind of miscellaneous odds and ends. This section of St. Ives is going to have its own condominium association. We've already gone through one round of comments from staff, and we took care of the majority of those. There are still a few remaining. I'd say probably half of those are what I would call more administrative in nature, and the other ones we're currently working on and are in communication with the staff about. So that's kind of all I had. If you have any questions.
Yeah, before we go to that, does staff have anything else to add?
I do not at this time.
Okay. Lindsay, you mentioned the planning commission hadn't seen it for a while, and then it came back more recently?
Yeah, we saw it 4 weeks ago.
The planning commission hasn't seen a Canterbury plan in a while, so we just wanted to update them just to let them know that there's some activity there and what's going to be happening. They didn't have any requirement to make any recommendations because it's a final plan.
Okay. Given that, the conditions that we're seeing here don't look like anything that would be generated out of a planning commission discussion, but was there anything of relevance during the planning commission meeting that we should be aware of?
No, they were just, okay, shake their heads and kind of move the plan along.
Okay.
There weren't any major comments.
Then, one last question, the minor, before we open it up, the minor staff issues to be resolved. Don, are those the ones referenced in the condition number 3? Is everything he's talking about that needs to yet be resolved, is that all captured in?
Yeah, number 3 is,
It says, address to the satisfaction of the township engineer any
yeah,
outstanding.
there's still some stormwater issues. I know Jerry and Pentair have gone back and forth on that, but there's nothing major left.
Okay.
Yeah, they still, Jerry's requesting a meeting. The last comment that we have is Jerry's requesting a meeting between the developer and the township to address some discharge. There's a reduction in stormwater rate, but an increased volume. So, yeah, they're pretty technical stormwater comments that are left with for Jerry.
Okay. And let's go to this side first. Dustin,
Yeah,
questions?
that's great. Mine was based on that too, because you had mentioned about the vegetation also not being done yet, right? What it actually was per the order, so that would fall underneath number 3.
Yes, yeah, I mean, that's pretty minor.
All right. So just a clarification, the screening that you're asking for, the types of vegetation, that's what Dustin's referring to. That would come under condition number 3.
Yes.
Okay. Tracy, anything?
I don't know if it already has been done, or maybe I overlooked it, but there doesn't have to be like a traffic study or anything in that area, or has it been done? Maybe I missed it.
Yeah, no, a traffic study is not required. Like you pointed out, is the number of units being proposed is as per the original master plan.
Okay.
And to build on that, though, at the time that the master plan was approved, there was in fact a traffic study that was done, is that
Okay.
correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
So to answer, it was done assuming a build-out as detailed in the master plan.
Okay, thank you.
Susan?
Yeah, a couple questions. Thank you for your explanation. I'm referencing the correspondence we had from a resident, a Mr. Snow. He did mention that the property was subdivided in 2008 in his letter. Was the property subdivided, officially subdivided? Because if it were, would that change the total acreage of that lot? The original lot was 5.307. And he mentioned in his email, I think second paragraph, that there was an official subdivision in 2008. I don't,
Tony, I see you shaking your head. You want to?
I can help with that, because that would be part of that project.
So the 5.3 acres is the tract that we're working with. That's not a subdivided part. That is the
okay,
remaining
that was my
part.
question. So the
Yeah.
original tract was not subdivided, there was the original development, phase 1 was developed, and it left the remaining 3-something acres, and that's what you're developing now, but
Yeah,
like the
I'm
total,
not sure where the 3-acre number came from.
okay, okay,
To be honest with you. The original tract was in the neighborhood of 9 acres.
okay,
It was subdivided due to a requirement under the Pennsylvania Condominium Act. Those were existing and had to be subdivided.
Okay.
So that those folks would have their own tract and this could be further developed.
Okay.
But the remaining parcel, the one that we are dealing with here, is 5.3 acres.
okay.
Yeah.
Because that would have affected the
Yeah.
impervious and the percentages.
That's
So
correct.
that's very helpful.
Yes.
Another question, 2 more questions. Our workforce housing ordinance, does this density trigger the workforce housing for the single family?
The density is 4.9 units per acre, and our requirement is 5.
Okay. Okay. And last but not least, are there any comments or any information you can share about the exterior design that, I think there was some discussion that the exterior design would be done to fit the character of the buildings around it, and that would be different than the townhomes that were referenced on the far side of Brandywine. Those would look very different.
Yeah, so the townhomes that are on the north side of Brandywine Drive, they're the lower ones. They have, the roof lines are broken up a little bit more. They have some stone on them. So these units would be very similar to those in height. They're actually a foot or 2 lower, again, than those that were originally proposed in 2008. So they'll actually be a little bit lower. My understanding is that the materials and the colors will fit more with the houses, both the existing townhouses on St. Ives and the surrounding single-family homes. So it will
I'm going to use the term blend or then
Okay.
certainly more. But those, that gives you an idea of what they'll look, that's what they'll look like though. They are attached townhomes, similar to those on Reading.
Okay. I think that's what I had.
Okay, thanks, Tony. Rich?
No, Susan got a couple of the questions answered. The only other one I saw was a discussion about owners association. That's not relative. You indicated this is going to have its own.
Yes, so the first phase has its own homeowners association, this will have a separate homeowners association. Yes.
Anything else, Rich?
That's all I had.
Okay. This is a potential action item. Actually, it's an action item before us. Ordinarily, we wouldn't open up the floor to comments or questions until we had a motion and an action on the floor. But given that any potential comments or questions may affect the motion, do we have anybody either in the room or online who would like, who has a question for council or comment before the pending action? Yeah. I can't read the last name there.
Subpoena?
Subpoena? The subpoena.
Yes. Yes, thank you. I'm Martha Subpoena and my husband Richard, and we are residents at 415 Brandywine Drive, and we purchased our lot in 1994 and built our home through S&A and moved in 1995. So we were 30-year residents of Canterbury Crossing. And at the time that we were building our home with S&A, there were very stringent requirements as to what the exterior of the home needed to be. Absolutely no vinyl siding. It had to be wood siding if you were doing
And stone.
and stone. And we had to have landscape plans approved and all of that so that there was an integrity throughout the neighborhood. And over the and we've always been, let me just add, we've always been very proud residents of our neighborhood. And we have loads of friends and neighbors who feel that same way. And it's been a disappointing last number of years with the structures that have gone up at the bottom of Brandywine Drive. And so as soon as my husband saw in statecollege.com that this next phase of St. Ives was to be proposed, voted on, and built.
Radically different from the current St. Ives.
We were really disturbed and very concerned. And so along with Dean Snow and Marcia and John Kramer, who are online, and Susan and Hannah, we are all concerned residents. I'm not sure who's in the audience in person, but we all feel the same way, that we have concerns about the integrity of our neighborhood because of what happened over the last number of years at the end of Brandywine. And so while Tony and I don't remember the other fellow's name from Pantera are saying, oh, the structure is going to be similar to St. Ives, and I understand the solicitor needed to say whether that structure was changing in great deal or not, according to what we know of St. Ives and what we know of the structures that have been built at the end of Brandywine that are now to be replicated, they are vastly different. And quality, finish, everything about those structures seem to be different from the exterior. And so while the solicitor may say, oh, it's fine, they seem to be very similar and no problem, so we can move forward with this, we as residents have true concerns about what these structures are really going to look like and how they are going to blend into the rest of the neighborhood. Because certainly the structures at the end of Brandywine do not fit with our neighborhood
Don't belong in Canterbury at all.
at all. And we never had a chance to say yay or nay as residents. That was not in our control. But now that we're faced with an opportunity to at least draw to the council's attention our concerns, we really hope that there might be a pause in the vote and there might be an opportunity for dialogue between S&A and the residents so that we can feel more comfortable about how this next phase is going to proceed. Let me just see if was there anything else? I think that, well, the only other thing that I know, and someone on council just addressed that, maybe based upon Dean Snow's concerns, was with regard to traffic. And while we know that there are 26 units, and who knows how many people may live in those permanently or just for football games or what have you, we have no knowledge of that. And I don't know how anyone could in advance of people purchasing. But we're concerned about what that traffic impact may have throughout the neighborhood. We definitely have seen since the completion of Brandywine, connecting where Fieldstone is and the middle school is, we have definitely seen an impact on our traffic, as well as the speeding throughout the neighborhood. And that's cars coming from both ends, from Scenery and from the other side of Brandywine. And we have children that live in the neighborhood, and we have dogs, and we have people that just like to enjoy walking on our beautiful sidewalks. And with cars streaming through, that creates a negative impact on the community. So, yeah, so that's one thing that, and from what I understand, and Lindsay, I hope it's okay that I'm saying that I talked with you earlier today, but with regard to the opportunity for we as residents to request a traffic study, our concern or our question is, why would that not be provided in advance of this project moving forward? It doesn't seem to make sense that we wouldn't have knowledge of the traffic impact before we say, as a College Township organization and as a community, that we're okay with all of this. And we understood, I know my husband and I, and probably most of us that are online right now, we have seen the plans through the years. We were in the beginning, we were the first house in phase 2 of the neighborhood. So we know what the potential plans, the tentative plans have been. But to see some of them come to fruition, especially down at the end of Brandywine, it has been such a concern for all of us. What's going to happen with the quality of our neighborhood that we've always been so proud of? What's going to happen with our property values? How are these things going to impact us as a larger community? And I think those are important considerations. One other thing, just sorry, if you don't mind, one more comment. Just looking at what Pantera was showing about the design or the layout of the buildings, and seeing that very end building that's on Brandywine Drive and Asbury and Brandywine has 7 units in it. That's going to be a large, large building compared to the 4 and the 5. And so I don't know why that needs to be so large, but it's certainly going to be a prominent structure that the other buildings are maybe not going to feel that prominent. So I would request, I don't know if I can request, but I would hope that someone would take a look at why that is necessary and have a more balanced look throughout that phase of St. Ives, rather than end loading, or I don't know what the terminology would be, but making that very heavy, larger building as the exclusive building, or exclusive building in that segment that is going to be right on Brandywine Drive. So I think that's the last of my comments. Huh?
Yeah, and again, when we built our home in 1994, SNA made us jump through a ton of hoops to make sure that our house met all the requirements of the development. And then to see what they built on their own at the end of the street, it's atrocious.
It's disappointing, for sure.
Okay, do we have any other comments online? Anything that hasn't already been brought to our attention? Anybody?
If I could ask a question.
Yes.
Has the board reviewed, or is the board even aware, of the covenants that we all live under in the current Canterbury Crossing development? that's what the subpoenas are referring to. There are very strict covenants that we must adhere to. And it appears to me that the developer has not read the covenants of the development. This is not an SNA project. It seems to me that they need to conform to the covenants as the subpoenas and everybody else did when they built their houses. My house was a spec house. It was built before SNA was involved in this development, so that was over 30 years ago. But they're absolutely right about everything else that they've mentioned here, but it appears to me that there are requirements here that have not been met. Now, I understand that under Pennsylvania law, things are not as they were in New York when I lived there. There is no site plan review when it comes to architectural design. They're not required to tell you what they're going to build in terms of how it's going to look and what the surface finishes are. I mean, they've glossed over that very quickly. And my criticisms in that regard are directed at the developer, because under the law, they're complying. They're showing you where the the stormwater is going to go. They're showing you where the utilities are going to go and where the buildings are going to go. And all we're seeing are footprints. There are no elevation drawings at all in that 25-page submission that they brought forward. So there are other concerns here that have been completely ignored. And I think that the board should be aware of the covenants. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Anybody in the room? Okay. A little bit of a follow-up. Circling back to traffic impact study, I just want to make sure, reaffirm what we heard earlier, and that is a traffic impact study was done at the master plan submission and approval based on full build-out. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
1988,
Now, 19,
when the PRD was
Right.
approved in 1988.
so that traffic impact study anticipated this number of units in here? Okay,
Yeah.
So just to answer the question about traffic impact, it has been done, correct?
Yes.
As it does with any master plan or PRD. It's just that this one happened to take 40 years to build out.
Yeah.
And if I may, that also included a full build-out of Brandywine. So the traffic impact study that was done in 1988 for the PRD would have also included anticipated traffic or through connection with Brandywine. And we know that that's only happened recently, relatively recently, but even that was captured as part of the PRD process.
Okay. Second question that came out of the comments, we heard a lot of discussion about requirements when building. Do I understand that those are HOA-type covenants limited to the phase or the section of the development the speakers were building in at the time? That's how it works? Okay, so there is no universal covenants or no universal,
Right.
There were no covenants attached to specifically to the PRD as a whole.
correct, that's what I was asking.
Yeah. And when, covenants are just what they are for the, the homeowners and the developers, and the township typically doesn't have any right, to do anything with the covenants.
For each phase.
We have no enforcement.
So just to be
Abilities are
clear,
in the
that's
covenant.
important. I mean, covenants are between the property owners and their neighbors.
Correct.
Right.
This is not something that the township has any oversight or
They're required as part of the PRD plan for each phase. Sometimes, they exist, over a few phases, sometimes they're per phase. But yeah, they're required as part of our ordinance, but we're not the ones who administer those.
Generally, don't they have about a 30-year expiry anyhow, in general?
They can go indefinitely as long as the HOAs
renew them.
Inactive.
Okay.
This will be a separate association. So
Right.
it'll be its own association.
I need you, before we're going to, I think we're finished here. Did anybody have any follow-up questions or clarification on the comments that we heard? Those were the two that I got out of it.
I had one question, I had a question about the traffic study. When you say full build-out done in 1988, did that include all the units that were townhomes, or was that a traffic study done based on single-family homes on that section, so it was the
Yeah,
total
this-
number of units possible?
Yeah, this phase, even from back in 1988, was always proposed for this density. Yeah.
So the number of people anticipated if master plan was accommodated in master plan traffic study?
Yes.
And the number of trips per household would be the same today as it would have been in 1988?
Pretty much.
All right, hang on. We need to officially announce you, okay, for America.
College Jacobs, Bank Operations Director with SMA Homes.
Okay, can you guys hear him? See that, can you hear
To
him?
regard to the traffic study, the Canterbury Crossing PRD as a whole actually had a net unit reduction of 38 units when the sections 1C and 1B were converted from multifamily to single-family units. So the original traffic study count would have had 38 more dwelling units than the total PRD build-out would complete, including this section.
Okay, did you have something to offer too?
Yes. My name's Chris Dockett with SMA Homes. I just wanted to address a couple of comments made by Mrs. Sapina.
Okay.
Just in general, 1994 to now is a long time. I was a senior in college here. Certainly I was driving a different looking car than I am now, right? Times changed, styles changed. The units that we have are going to be quality built. SMA builds a quality home. I think they're not going to be above quality is absolutely incorrect. That's what we do, right? We are part of the community. We build quality homes, and that's what's going to happen here. These are going to be very high-end townhomes. They're going to be stone, hardy plank, those types of materials that are going to be high-end townhomes. We're looking right now, just to give you some perspective, the average price we're looking at right now is about $300 a square foot on the sales price of these. So to put that in comparison, you know, the current St. Ives townhomes and resales the last couple of years are selling about $260, in the $260 area. And overall, the single-family homes are in the low 200s per square foot. So these are going to be high-end homes. They're going to be maintenance-free. They're going to blend in with the community. They're going to be a good fit. You know, we kind of take offense to the comment atrocious. The units we put up before sold in about a year and a half. So there's a lot of people that love their homes. We've had nothing but great response from those homes. So, you know, we have everything invested in this community, and that's not going to change. So these are going to be quality built homes, and they're going to be, you know, exactly what we need up there in the community. So.
Okay, appreciate that context. And Lindsay, was any of this brought up at the planning commission review? Do we have any?
No, and actually, the letter that was received by council came in on, I believe, Monday or Tuesday of this week. So the planning commission did see the letter, but unfortunately, the planning commission reviewed the plan at the meeting prior to receiving that letter. So no, they didn't see the letter. They didn't have the opportunity to discuss any of this.
All right, I see Ed making his way to the podium.
Yeah, this is Ed Darrow with the planning commission. Basically, we looked at the plan for the 26 units, okay? Everything that we looked at, okay, we knew that this plan was originally approved in 2008. It included these townhouses, okay? It may be the townhouses have changed in height and so on and so forth, but the number of units was the same, okay? They have reduced the impervious. The flow from the water going into the golf course is reduced. So we looked at all those things. We did not have the letter concerning the 3 acres, 5 acres, so on and so forth. The plans we saw are exactly what you have, which is 5.3 acres. The number of units was exactly the same as 08. Okay, we did have a few questions concerning, you know, the trees being taken out in the back, where they were going, the screening, that was all discussed at the planning commission. Lindsay told us that we did not have to make a recommendation because this was already approved in 08 as a master plan. and nothing has really changed. A traffic study was also done as a full build-out of the PRD. So basically, this letter came in on Monday. We did get a copy of the email. We looked at it. We are not an approving body. So we looked at it and we told the individual that wrote the memo that he would have to discuss that with council, not the planning commission. So all the comments that you've heard about the texture of the houses, the structure are all $300 a square foot is not a cheap house. As we know, single family are 200. Okay, and I can tell you from my experience prior that these are high-end townhouses. So basically, everything that you've heard, no, we did not hear all the comments, but we did see the email, but we did not act on it because we felt that it's in your purview, not ours. So if there's anything you want to ask, I'll gladly answer any questions.
Questions for Ed? No? All right, thanks, Ed. I'm not sure that Mr. Snow's comments are in our purview. Certainly when it comes to HOA covenants, what I heard from Lindsay is they're required, but we don't set them.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Correct. Our obligation stops with the MPC and making sure that HOAs are established as appropriate. We don't establish them, we're not involved in that. Our obligation begins and ends with making sure that HOAs get established as per the municipality's planning code of Pennsylvania. So beyond that, there's no involvement relative to the township. We do ask that HOAs that are formed voluntarily provide us with their documents. HOAs typically sunset after a period of approximately 20 years. And we do track those HOAs to know whether or not we in the township, in a particular neighborhood, have a functioning HOA or not. Covenants are entirely out of the purview. There is no involvement of any kind the township has with covenants. Again, to be clear, our involvement with HOAs is extremely limited to simply ensuring that the developer meets the requirements that are part of the municipality's planning code as per HOAs.
Okay, and then to review, what we also heard was that the original traffic study for the original master plan was actually for more units than we're going to see here at the completion of this phase. I think I heard 38. So what that means is that the infrastructure and all the traffic-related improvements that were required were built for more units than what we are currently going to end up with. And of course, the one variable in there is habits that may have changed, but I don't know that those factor into a traffic study, do they? I mean, that's all data, right? That's all units?
Well, the number of trips per day per unit changes over time, but I don't believe it's changed significantly at all from the time that traffic study would have been done till now. And in fact, with maybe, if anything, traffic per unit might be going down.
And even if it did, it would have to make up for 38 units.
Yeah, it's very de minimis, any changes, I would think, over.
Okay. We have a recommendation from staff and the planning commission in our packet. This is a potential action item. If, at this point, the chair will entertain a motion. Should the council want to take action on this tonight?
I had one more question on traffic study.
Sure.
Before or after the motion?
Well, we'll have an opportunity to discuss the motion, but if it affects the motion, I would say now.
Yeah, just for clarity, right, so if you know, right? We talked about how things change over 40 to 30 years. So what were the requirements for a traffic study in 1988 versus now? Do they remain unchanged? I'll put you on the spot.
Yeah, I don't have it.
So, just considerations, right, and I understand what folks are talking about, reduction in units, but the scope of that neighborhood, the scope of the entire area has changed a lot. How far out do we go in radius when we look at studies, right? Was that fully developed out, down over the golf course on the other side with all the medical buildings? So, just as a comment on traffic studies, and I don't know how we can go about this, but accepting a traffic study over a 40-year period seems a little flawed.
Well, I will
I
say
hear the
this, is
people on
that with 28 units, any development that would come in now that has 28 units would not trigger a traffic
So
study.
that's a good point there, though, Don, thanks, yeah.
No, it's not
Yeah.
even close.
But, that's just something to consider, and I understand folks' consideration and concern on that, on a traffic
yeah.
study being that old, right? Yeah, Teresa, sorry.
Something that I heard too, I don't know if they can address it, but they were asking if the plants can be, more lifelike, for lack of a better term. If that's something we can offer or require. Yeah, the elevation, thank you.
You could ask for those to be presented. However, again, that would be not necessarily for us.
Gotcha.
That would be something that could be shared with, I don't know, who would that be shared with? It's not a code. It's
Yeah,
not-
we did ask for, some examples of the product to be displayed for council.
Okay.
So I would say, to follow up on your question, should the developer be so inclined to share that with staff, residents could contact staff to have access to that.
Okay.
How's that sound? I think that's about the
that's
limit of what we can do in that regard.
Okay.
Anybody else? All right. Do we have a motion? Anyone?
Mr. Chair, I recommend council move to approve the St. Ives Canterbury Crossing final planned residential plan dated June 16, 2025, and last revised July 21, 2025, subject to the following conditions. Within 90 days from the date of approval by council, all conditions must be satisfied, final signatures must be obtained, and the plan must be recorded with the Center County Recorder of Deeds Office. Failure to meet the 90-day recordation time requirement will render the plan null and void. 2, pay all outstanding review fees. 3, address the satisfaction of the township engineer any outstanding plan review comments. 4, fully comply with College Township Code Section 180-12. 5, post surety as approved by the township engineer prior to recording. 6, provide an intent to serve letter from the State College Borough Water Authority. 7, provide an intent to serve letter from the University Area Joint Authority. 8, provide proof of National Pollution Discharge Elimination System approval. 9, record approved declaration of stormwater access and maintenance easement prior to recording. 10, establish addressing, including final house numbers and/or lot numbers with the township zoning officer and Center County 911 prior to recording. And finally, all conditions must be accepted in writing within 7 days from the date of the conditional approval letter from the township engineer.
All right, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. So at this point then, before we take a vote, the chair, the township's required to offer public comment on the proposed motion. I first want to ask the...
I would like to offer, I've been through a scenario similar to this professionally, and I certainly understand the subpoenas and the SNO's considerations on this, but at the end of the day, the township is restricted or has to do business in certain ways governed by the MPC and various other documents and everything. So within those, I believe we're making the right decision in moving this forward. However, I would hope that the developer, given the opportunity, would share as much detail as they can. As you've heard, there's some angst about what will ultimately be, and to your words of being part of our community, I think that would be very helpful. So thank you.
Yeah, just to clarify what Rich said, it's not part of the motion, but we're just requesting that you share that information with staff, not with council, but with staff. And should anybody who's interested, they can then contact the township and have access to it.
Happy to share.
Thanks, Bob. And provide comment. And, then that dialogue can happen between the staff and the developer. All right, so we have a motion. Before I take a vote, does anybody online, would anyone online like to address council before I
had something to
call for Dustin first? First, we're going to go back here to staff or to council.
Yeah, and just, agree with everything Rich said, absolutely. Thank you, Rich, well said. Just on number 3, right, those outstanding plan review comments, that is all public record, right? We see those comments, so that, and so, folks that are living in the neighborhood, you'll see what's outstanding and what needs to be done and what needs to be fulfilled. So it's not just like we're giving a, kind of like into the void, and it's not recorded and it's not written down. So, just so you know about that.
Anyone's welcome to stop by the township office and review plans, comments at any time.
That's all, thanks.
Okay.
And I have one last question to Dustin's point, and thank you for what you said, Rich, because I think that was important. On number 3 specifically, does this refer back to the conditions of the PRD?
Yes,
There
it would
are
cover.
certain conditions in the PRD under the purpose that address the character and the content of the neighborhood. So does that,
I feel that addressed to the satisfaction of the township engineer, any plan review comments covers all ordinances
okay.
and
So
regulations.
how, as it comports to the PRD, the requirements of the PRD?
Right, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else before I go online? No? Okay. Mr. and Mrs. Zapina, the floor is
Yes,
yours.
sorry. Thank you for your time, and thank you for all of the information that you've shared, all of you, this evening. Just one follow-up then, just because I don't know how this process works. As you make your vote, take your vote tonight to approve this, and we're concerned, and I brought up the imbalance in the design footprint of this section, where there's 5, I think there were 2 5-unit buildings, then maybe 2 4-unit buildings, and then 1 7-unit building. It's very imbalanced, and I think it will look very imbalanced as we are standing on Asbury or in our nice little park, or as we drive by on Brandywine. Is that set in stone then? That footprint will not be altered?
I think I can answer that with staff's help. The land development plan we approved, should it change dramatically, it would have to come back before us. But it's what's being shown on the plan tonight, based on the action tonight, if the developer meets all of the other conditions, all the conditions we named tonight, plus all of those conditions that the township engineer has to sign off on, then it can be built exactly as, or needs to be built exactly as it's shown on the plan. Should they decide, through discussion or whatever, to change it, then it would have to come back for approval. It would probably trip the threshold for another approval, for another, like what you see tonight.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, yes, this is the approval for what you see on the plan tonight.
And then may I just follow up with, if I understand correctly, that the solicitor needs to make sure that this final plan is in accordance with what was in the tentative plan for St. Ives back in 1988, and which we understood and saw in our prints, or whatever, the plans for the neighborhood when we bought our lot in 1994. Are these really, sure to me, based upon what I know of St. Ives, existing St. Ives, what I see on that the 5 building plan, they do not look footprint-wise similar at all.
Similar at all to what?
Is that not part of the consideration with allowing this to move forward as the same type of structure that was originally planned in 1988? Or I may not be understanding the
Yeah.
whole concept.
I'm gonna let staff answer that, but I think the master plan is simply approving density and general location. Details like that follow with the land development plan like we are dealing with tonight. Adam?
Yeah, you're exactly right. The original PRD and the interpretation that we received from the township solicitor had to do with continuity of use in terms of single-family, multifamily, those types of issues. So that's really the primary review that the solicitor did in that regard. And this plan is in fact consistent with the original PRD. The elements that you're referring to are much more architectural and design-oriented, and those are not considerations that are impacted by the township. We really don't have, we don't regulate those in any way. So Eric is absolutely correct in that regard.
So our next step with our concerns would be, can we speak to someone at SNA? Would they listen to our longtime citizenry in the neighborhood, our concerns about how those structures, at least in my mind's eye right now, that run of buildings is going to look very inconsistent with what we already see in St. Ives. And certainly and I'm sorry, we did not mean to offend anyone from SNA, but we all have had concerns after seeing the structures that have been built at the end of Brandywine. Because in our minds, we don't see that they fit with the rest of the neighborhood. So when you say, oh, well, these are going to fit in really well, we already see a huge swath of the bottom of Brandywine that does not appear to fit in to the neighborhood at all. And I'm not saying it's not quality construction, but from the exterior, it does not blend with the neighborhood. That's why we have doubts about what the plan is for this next phase of St. Ives. And I'm sorry if we're offending anyone, but that's how we all feel.
Okay, what I'm going to tell you is that would be a discussion, you're free to reach out to them. They have shown a willingness in the past to listen and work with folks, and I suspect that would continue in this case. But it's really outside the purview of our action tonight, outside of the fact that the action invited conversation and the developer at the same time. So those conversations, that contact has already kind of happened. But it's,
Let me just say, I've reached out to SNA and they have not responded.
okay, that's noted. Do you have any other comments on the motion as presented tonight? Anybody?
Thank you.
We appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you.
All right. Did you have a follow-up?
I did, just to add to your concern, Chairman Mayor. While the unit structure will be very similar to the existing units on the north side of Brandywine Drive. The exterior finishes, we have multiple renderings, we're working in studies, different windows, doors, exterior finishes, as Chris previously mentioned, incorporating stone, some more earthy tones as opposed to the blues and grays that are on the outside of those buildings, to more match what's on St. Ives and that end. We have 5 or 6 different preliminary renderings. We didn't want to provide those renderings to be part of the agenda today to make them a matter of record because we haven't researched material availabilities just yet. We're still working through exactly what the exterior finishes are going to be and what to look like. But I think there's just a little bit of disconnect between saying they're like the buildings on Brandywine and they will be the same as the buildings in Brandywine. So the structure is the same. While we're looking at, those vinyl siding on 3 sides and the rear, very minimal stone on the front, very light colors, blues, grays, these buildings are, it's our intent to make them fit not only architecturally, but aesthetically, in with the color schemes that are existing on the western end of Brandywine and to just to the north in the existing sandhouse community. So incorporating more blacks, earthy tones, browns, and more stone, and then using a hardier cemented siding on the buildings. So I just wanted everybody on staff and everybody, available online to be aware that those comments were heard and are being explored and are going to be addressed in that part of the ordinance.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate you taking the time to come here tonight and share information that is obviously of concern to folks, or of interest to folks, even though it's kind of outside our purview. So, any other questions, comments on the motion? Anybody in the room? All right, the chair will call the question. All in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries, and I would thank our neighbors from Canterbury for participating tonight. What I think you heard was there are some as-built, or there is some information that is being gathered that will, at some point, be shared with staff here at College Township that you're welcome to come in and look at. Okay? That'll conclude. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, thanks, Tony. That concludes our only plan for tonight. That takes us to reports. First item under reports is the manager's update. We have a written report in our packet. Does the manager have anything to add beyond that?
Nothing beyond the written report, but I'm happy to answer any questions that the report that generated by council.
Does anyone have questions for the manager? All right, that takes us to COG, Regional, County, and Liaison reports. I have, by my record, by the calendar, 5 COG committee reports, or 5 COG committees met since our last meeting, the first of which would have been climate action and sustainability.
Our meeting was canceled.
That meeting was canceled. All right, there was 4 then. The second one would have been public safety on August 12th. Did they meet?
We did. We had a busy meeting. So I would like to report, I have a written report and I'll send that. I just finished that today. So a couple of things I wanted to let you all know about. Center Lifelink requested an informational time on the agenda to give us an informational update about their current state, and also to make a request that municipalities start to consider the possibility of making annual assistance part of the budget. How that mechanism would work is not clear at this time. The Public Safety Committee moved that to a future agenda as an action item. So we'll discuss that further at an upcoming meeting. A couple of things that I did want to share with our council and staff. Center Lifelink is doing some projection work and looking at what the impacts of the One Big Beautiful Bill will have on emergency management transport. They're working with a consultant that's looking at the potential impacts over the next 10 years, because a lot of those impacts will be phased in over time. They do have concerns. They're looking at a 15% reduction in Medicaid reimbursements, which will have a significant impact. They currently rely on memberships and fee-for-service reimbursements for transports. So that could significantly affect their revenue. The other concern they have is they do have an aging facility, similar to what's going on at COG, 22-year-old facility. So there are some capital expenses coming up over the next few years. They are doing some cost cutting already in anticipation. They subdivided the University Park property and sold off the live-in house. They're looking at managing some other costs. They'll be discontinuing the non-emergency van service. There's more competition in the community now, so people who need, particularly older patients who don't have rides, they need van service to get transported to appointments. And they now have competition from private companies, so they'll be discontinuing that service. So I think, they do want to look at how they can be more cost-conscious and efficient in how they're spending money, but they would like municipalities. They did mention and wanted to thank council again. Our municipality did make a direct contribution to them this year, $10,000, and that was very much appreciated, and they acknowledged that pretty much every opportunity they get. So they are grateful for that. We also had an informational update item from Pam Adams, who is the director of the CRCA. She came to talk to the Public Safety Committee about the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan and the climate impacts that we'll be looking at in the region over the next, well, over the future. Specifically, she talked about longer, hotter summers, and she also talked about more frequent and severe wind and water events and how that will be impacting power outages. She did want us to be aware that the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan Technical Advisory Group is going to be issuing an update in 2025 on the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan work that's been done since the General Forum approved or accepted the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan in 2021. So they're now going to be working with emergency management, Penn State, the medical school, the law school on looking at interviewing stakeholders. They were leaning on their AmeriCorps volunteer who will no longer be doing that work, so they're looking at partnering with other organizations and people at Penn State. A couple of action items were budget items. We were asked by Code, the Code agency, to recommend to the Finance Committee and the Executive Committee a budget amendment of $105,000 to purchase 2 electric vehicles. And they needed to do that this year rather than next year in order to meet the requirements of a grant for the EV charging station. And so that will be coming forward to Finance and then Executive. And Mr. Kaufman, Sean Kaufman, also asked for a budget amendment. They're working on repairs to the Patton Township station to the roof. And so the bids came in higher, $25,000 higher. So they're going to be asking, they asked us to go and send that to Finance, which we did. So those were the action items from Public Safety. That's what I have.
Questions for Susan? No? Great, thank you. That would take us then to the Finance Committee meeting on the 14th.
Would you believe me if I told you we didn't meet? No.
No, I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't.
'Tis the season, budget season, but we did receive the code budget amendment. Just a couple things to expound on that. They're going to be using a different vehicle than historically they have. They've been using Ford Escapes, and now they're going to use a Honda Prologue. One of the requirement for the grant for the charging stations is that you have 2 of these vehicles, and that's why they're rushing to get it done. But there's also grants being applied to the vehicles themselves. There's 2.
It's going to expire at the end of September.
Right. There's 2 different grants, $7,500 each for each vehicle. So a total of $30,000 going towards the, getting this done. The Patton fire, again, was passed, and we moved it going back to the code budget, it was interesting. Remnants of fleet management were thrown out and as a reason to not approve this and everything, but in this case with the 30,000, I made it clear that a certain township has been talking about a fleet management plan for a little while. And but one of the other things that came out of that was the life cycle of a code vehicle as it moves through, and it does benefit the other agencies, which then benefits the municipalities, and even further, the first responders and some of our educational elements in the community and everything. So there's much more to it than the dollars, but I was encouraged that it was absolutely clear that we have fiduciary duty to the code department. So that was made abundantly clear. Patent Fire, it needs done. It's, it's been pushed off about as far as it can get. The thing of concern there is the estimate that they got was not prevailing wage. That led to, the increase, but the increase as a percentage is pretty significant. The budget was $50,000 and the increase is $25,000. So that's something that, we're working with staff to try to move forward on. Budget progress, we're making it. The first meeting September 9th. Just for the record, we're meeting the 9th, the 11th, and the 16th with a wrap-up on the 18th. All of those meetings will be on CNET, available to you for your viewing pleasure. We did take the opportunity to have a quick after-action on the SIGC review. In general, the new program format and everything was well received. There was some differing views on how to approach it. One of the municipalities pretty much said, well, we're going to give you 2 times COLA as what it is. And then College Township, how College Township did it was referenced as well, in that we put some meat to that kind of analysis. These are the things for the money that we're additional money we're willing to spend that we'd like to see done. So how people are going to move through it in future years will be interesting to see. We continued our fund balance discussions. We made it most of the way through code. There's many more to come, but baby steps to the fund balance policy. Finally, I made a request to start looking at the financial closeout of the Whitehall and Millbrook Marsh projects. Whitehall, there's not much, there's like $6,000 left of allocated funds, but Millbrook has some, and they need to start looking at how they're restricted to use those, or where they could move forward with those. Finally, I believe I reported, if I'm not, I apologize, but there was a forgery on a COG check of about $1,800. It was to Columbia Gas. The check, it was a fake check, went through and everything, but all those funds have been resolved. It's resolved. All those funds came back. I previously mentioned the IRS 1099 snafu that happened that had a potential of a $7,200 fine, and through the work of staff, that was waived. I think I mentioned that before, but it's worth mentioning it again. So, and even more so, processes have been put in place to make sure it never happens again. Pending any questions, Mr. Chair.
Questions for Rich? No? All right, the next up was exec committee. I had exec committee on Tuesday, and the only 2 action items on the agenda were the 2 that were referred to by Susan and Rich. The executive committee supported Public Safety and Finance's recommendation on both the code vehicle purchase and the fire station budget amendment. Both of them are budget amendments. We did have a little bit of discussion on both. I noticed that on the Patton Fire Station budget amendment, that it was hinted at in the agenda that the $75,000 was not the lowest bid, but was the lowest acceptable bid. So I don't know if that came up in your meeting or not. But the fire director felt that the value brought with the higher bid was not only worth it, but necessary. So my understanding was the lower bid was responsive, but the higher bid offered something that maybe you guys got more on this than I did. Something that was an option, maybe, that brought much higher value to the overall $75,000 number. The other discussion that we had around the budget amendment for the vehicles was, someone asked if we, because the motion before general forum on Monday is to buy these vehicles only if the shortfall between what the vehicles cost and what we have budgeted can be found somewhere in the mysterious depths of the COG budget. I don't know if it's contingency, will finance have any discussion on that?
Well, that was interesting. We will offer that it was put forward at Public Safety to have that kind of stipulation, but apparently was voted against or was not included in the final motion that came to Finance. Finance did push that restriction on. It was roughly $40,000, and it was put in there as a stipulation moving forward as part of the recommendation for the unanimous consent that we received to push it forward to the exec, and then it would be decided by.
Okay, so that's why I came to exec like that.
Correct. That was our recommendation. The recommendation that we got from Public Safety did not include that, but staff shared that that was discussed at Public Safety. It just did not move forward. It moved forward at Finance with that, and to exec, again, we're a recommending body, so we moved it forward with that, and then final discussions would be at the general fund.
Well, we had a lot of discussion about that because there were some on exec committee that felt that we should get the cars, we should find some way to get the cars and take advantage of the expiring credits for electric vehicles.
Right.
And we would hate to miss out on that opportunity.
And that was the general sense at Public Safety.
Right, as we're dealing with the fallout from one big beautiful bill, this was just another example of that. And so there was strong opinions there, but in the end, we supported the motion that came forward out of Finance because the feeling was we don't want to jeopardize the charging station, because the thought was, well, we would just get 5 charging stations instead of 7 and supplement it. So we couldn't, at the time, we couldn't come up with a good way to identify a source of $40,000. So we just reverted back to the motion. But I just wanted to share that there was a general consensus that we did not want to let this opportunity go by. So we're just keeping our fingers crossed that we can find the shortfall somewhere so we can take advantage of what.
And I think in this case, the committee process works well. I don't think that at Public Safety, the discussion would have progressed to the place it could go to with Finance. I think, we were a little bit, we were getting stuck on that point. And so we sent it on further for consideration in the context of your committee.
Right, and we just didn't want it to get lost, the concern get lost. Two things, they really cut the scope of the original, the cost of the original scope came in at like $400,000, and they only had $200,000 in
For the charging.
Yes, and so they modified the scope considerably for that and everything, but it was still, short.
Yeah, and that's why I think there was no comfort at the staff level for reducing the scope further to make up the difference for the cars.
Right.
We can always go back and get more cars later, but we really need I think, probably down to the minimum charging infrastructure we needed to support.
Well, for the charging, you have to have the 2 cars, so that's a key component as well. And again, I brought up the sustainability goals of the COG as well, that this is a policy that has been adopted by the general forum, and these support that.
And when you say the policy, it's through the cap, correct? Or another policy as far as the sustainability goes?
Yeah.
Through the cap.
And they've gone on record about electric vehicles.
So that's the motion that'll be before us Monday.
Okay.
Will be the same one that came out of Finance. Adam?
I've got to ask, was there any clarity maybe in Finance on the roof bid? Because
Yeah,
Lowest responsive bidder is the lowest responsive bidder.
right, there was the staff presented that there was components that were missing in the lowest.
That they weren't responsive.
Well, I asked that, and I think my definition of responsive is different than staff's.
Okay.
Because I lived in a world where if you were responsible and you were responsive, and you were the low bidder.
You're the low bidder.
Well, and that's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah.
But if there were elements that were missed by the lowest responsible bidder, they're not responsive or responsible, and you could go to the next lowest.
Right.
And that-
What was shared with us was that there was components missing.
Okay, so technically, at least in my world, they weren't responsive.
Right.
And I would agree.
And that
Yeah.
makes it a lot easier.
And they weren't the lowest responding bidder, but
Okay.
I-
Now, it's semantics.
I think there
Okay,
is
that's fine.
potential.
So,
Yeah.
just a question of process. That was something we could have teased out better in public safety before it came to finance, the difference between the responsive and the responding bidder.
Yeah.
So that was something we could have discussed further with Mr. Kaufman in the public safety meeting.
Sure.
And, okay, that's good for the
It's
future.
likely nobody's had experience in that world and the semantics that we're dealing with, because the agenda said neither of those two, it said
Right.
acceptable.
Well, and I see that, so we got the.
It needs to change, I think, in the general
So-
forum agenda.
Yeah, and I think the words are going to matter when it comes in front of the general forum.
Words
So, so Mr. Kaufman gave us his request after the agenda was published. It was a late item that was added after Tammy had it published, so, but it came in exactly worded that way. The lowest, I can find it again, but, so.
In our agenda, it's the most acceptable.
Yeah, and that is what, that was what was shared with us. But this is really more process and reflecting back on how to go back to public safety and do due diligence before we send things on to finance and then exec. So that's helpful to me. Thank you.
All right, if there aren't any more questions on that, I hope that there aren't any. We're going to move to Parks Capital, Rich, today. Did they meet?
Yes, sir.
And tell me, did they meet at Sunset Park?
They did. It was a chilly day for some. I enjoyed it very much. But we did meet at Sunset Park. It brought back memories from many, many moons ago of playing on that field over there. But we went through various items. We met the new Nature Center supervisor, Miss Susan Crandall Hart. We look forward to working with her. She's got quite a background and a personal affinity to Millbrook Marsh, good memories from her family and everything like that, which I never think hurts. We discussed the Whitehall Road grand opening. It appears that it will be on September 24th. The time is being firmed up in that, but roughly 3:30, I think, is being pushed around. The fee schedule policy for 2026 was reviewed and approved primarily by the authority. There was also a field use and scheduling policy, which is a new document that I think we've talked about in various venues before, but that was approved. And there was a discussion of the Active Adult Center food plan. The county just exercised a new contract with a new provider, and a slight increase, 78 cents a meal, going up. Big concern because it does not include coffee or tea. So that is a potential, that's a loved item at the Active Adult Center, and so they're going to figure out how to fund that. Finally, they reviewed the intergovernment agreement and park acceptance policies. There was no real comments, substantive comments on those documents, but there was more of what comes next. There was the memorandums of understanding between the individual municipalities and the agency in how the parks are going to be managed, came up, fundraising of the long-term operations of the parks and all that good kind of stuff. Many things beyond what the initial document, the intergovernment agreement, again, there is none. So we're just trying to get the broad strokes in to establish how we're going to do business together. I liken it very similar to what we did with Thompson Woods and the intergovernment relationship there to get that started and how we're going to do business and everything. In this case, I think they're memorializing how they've done business and trying to fill in the voids where it's coming in. There's been friction in the past of whose is this and everything, and I think they've filled a lot of those. End of the day, it's a living document. You know, if it needs updated, we should update it and everything. Speaking of updating, they reviewed the park acceptance policy, which the only one on record right now is from 1988. So as indicated at our last meeting, they nuked it and started over. So always, the big thing is nobody's looking to shove these documents under anybody's nose to sign yet. We're putting out a broad net to try to get back comments before we do that. So, and I believe that's it.
Questions for Rich? Thanks, Rich. That concludes COG reports. Do we have any liaison reports?
I have a CTIDA.
Okay, let's go with that.
Yep, we met yesterday, they met yesterday. I shared with you their strategic plan, which came out of their planning workshop, so that is finished. That's for 2026. They've decided to really focus on it for a one-year plan, and then over the next year, they'll be incorporating review of that plan at each of their meetings, and then there will be some workshop planning sessions to look at creating a modified or an improved strategic plan for 3 to 5 years. The IDA accepted a resignation of a member, and so they've asked that I bring that back to council, that we consider that as we consider approaching people about applying to be on an ABC. So they have 7 members, and they have 8 members now, and they have 1 member who is currently not able to attend meetings, but that is a temporary situation, so we don't really know where that is, but they are down 1 member. And the other thing, there's my report is in supplemental, but the other thing I wanted to update you on is we made a $25,000 allocation to the CTIDA for this year, and they created a small business grant program, and they're giving $5,000 business enhancement grants along the Gateway Corridor. They had a first round of applications. They awarded one $5,000 grant to YBC, and they currently have, I think, new awnings and some painting being done. Bonfire Barbecue also got the grant, and I think they have a new sign coming, and the recent car accident is not going to impact that. So the executive director reached out to them the day after the accident to see if anything needed, if they needed anything. So she's been in communication with them. Another round opens up for the grants on September 1st and will end. They'll be accepting grants through the end of the month. And then that second round of grants will be decided at the October IDA meeting. So small businesses along the Gateway Corridor are encouraged to apply.
That bonfire one in the paper?
Yeah, that's the one with the car accident. But they'll still be able to get their sign. No one was hurt. I guess it happened overnight. Happened at night?
2 a.m.
2 a.m. Okay.
So,
Anyway,
questions for Susan? I can tell you that the owners, who very likely will wait on you if you meet there, were much appreciative of the grant award. And for anyone who might be listening, what is the general area of the Gateway Commercial District? How far does it extend?
so if I may try, so from around Center Furnace Mansion up to the mall area.
Correct.
So it stops at the mall, not at the township line?
I don't think it goes quite
Yeah.
to the township line. I think about the Y is where is the length of the corridor.
Okay.
It's in West Street.
So any of the businesses on the Benner Pike beyond the mall that are in the township are not in the gateway commercial.
They're not in that designated area for the grants.
And the grant is limited to that designated area.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. That concludes, I think, our liaison reports, unless we have any more 150 of,
Very quickly, I can tell you that I think that we had a very successful 150th College Township Night at the Spikes. Appreciate everybody's participation there. A couple of minor glitches that hopefully went unnoticed by most that were in attendance. But actually, we had a good degree of participation, and I think it was a good event. Our next event is scheduled for September 15th, September 19th. Sorry, my mistakes, which will be the Soup and Song at the Laurel Green, and that is in the planning stages. I think that, Lindsay, you're on that particular subcommittee, if I'm not mistaken, and I think that you either have met or are about to meet to begin to wrap up some of the details that are involved. So planning for the September event is well underway, and again, that's the 19th, it's a Friday, and that should be another good event, assuming that the weather holds and cooperates. So then to wrap up the 150th anniversary year, it's in November, and I'm trying to think if it's November 23rd?
Yeah, it's Sunday.
November 23rd will be a little more formal ceremony, if you will, that we've invited some dignitaries to say a few words, those types of things. So more to come on that, but the planning is in earnest at the moment with respect to Soup and Song on the 19th of September.
thank you, Evan. I would say anybody who attended the last event would agree wholeheartedly with you. It was quite successful. And I want to thank the committee for arranging for the weather that we had that night. Nailed that. Staff, PC, and other committee reports. Let's go to Ed first for PC, and then cut him loose.
Ed Dara, Planning Commission. We met on Tuesday. We continue to work on the form-based code. So far, we have gotten some progress. We have looked at the heights, have kind of put those in, we've completed the lot coverage, we have completed that. Stormwater, Don has completed that, because that's a code thing with Pennsylvania. So basically, that's pretty easy. And we are now tackling parking. Parking's gonna take us a couple meetings. We had our initial discussion about parking on Tuesday. The parking situation is, and not to bore you, but there's two different sections. There's the mixed neighborhood, which is basically neighborhoods. You could have some commercial in there, but it's basically neighborhoods. And then you have the core, which is where you have businesses, apartments, so on and so forth. Okay, when you look at those two things, what do you do with parking? What do you do with walkability, so on and so forth? What do you do with streets? Do you have on-street parking? Okay, do you charge for on-street parking, so on and so forth? Okay, things came up about parking authorities, so on and so forth, but we're not there yet, okay? So there's a lot of different things churning, and basically with the meetings we have prior with staff, where the planning commission, myself, is with Adam and Mike and Lindsay and the rest of the staff, and we talk about these things before we go to the planning commission, because it makes things a lot clearer, and we don't spin our wheels and get nothing done. So I think that agenda is working. We did go over the remand letter concerning signs. In the remand letter, there were 4 options. One option was we do nothing. That has already been established, that's out. We are going to do something, okay? Is it going to be township-wide? We don't know yet, okay? Is it just going to be university-wide? We don't know that yet. Okay, we've asked staff for additional information. We would like to know exactly what Penn State's thinking, okay? What kind of signage, okay? Everything's based on square footage. How big is the venue, okay? How much square footage can they put signs based on the size of the building, okay? You can't have anything above the rooftops, okay? Well, Beaver Stadium could be signage on the rim that's above the stadium. So we have a lot of questions. That's probably going to take us 2 to 3 meetings. We'll probably be back to you in about a month and a half, 2 months. So that's kind of an update of where we've been and what we're doing. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions for Ed? No? Come on, he's been here for 2 hours.
Make them stay longer.
No jokes, though. I'm not mad.
Hey, no, I comment, on the remand, you know, we just came up with what we thought were 4 starting points.
Right.
There were 4 options. I don't know that we precluded, or actually, meaning we also said our hybrid or any combination of
Yep.
those. But those were to us the 4 most obvious directions.
Yeah, and one of the things is, we did have 2 people come in to the planning meeting, okay, and gave us comments about the signage, okay? And basically they're saying, remember, this is a very conservative town, okay? We don't want big signs, da-da-da-da-da-da. But there again, times have changed, okay? Penn State's doing a lot of different things. We have a casino that's coming in. They may sell advertising, or somebody may support them. So we're looking at this of, okay, we understand, but we're going to need your input also to give us some clarification, because do we want the big signs that you see in the cities? Or there could be signs that are architecturally right into a building, where, you know, you don't see them during the day, but at night, they're illuminated. So there's a lot of questions and some things that we're going to need your input, where we may come back to you saying, here's some of our questions. Where do you guys want to go? Okay, what do you think the community wants? Okay, not that we have to go with the community, but this is a ordinance for, you know, is the whole town, or is it just one area of town? So that's, you know, and is Penn State going to do it university-wide? So if they do, there's going to be more townships or the borough involved. So that's some of the questions that we already came up with.
Well, I'll say this, and I'll let you go. I think, speaking on behalf of council, we want to know what planning commission thinks. And that's why we gave you kind of the 4 guiding, or the 4 suggested paths. But I don't know that, or I believe the rest of us really want to know what you guys think about, from a planning standpoint, what makes the most sense. Because, and I'll say this, what we found out early on in our preliminary discussions with Penn State is our current sign ordinance never envisioned something like Beaver Stadium at scale. It was never designed for that.
Yeah.
So we feel we need to do something if we're going to accommodate, if we're going to recognize that this is something we need to address with our sign ordinance, we need to do something.
Yeah, and the other thing that we did talk about is, do we dip our toe into the water in the university area, which is that zoning exclusively up at Penn State?
That UPD district is what you're referring to.
With Bryce Jordan Center, with Pagola, with, you know, things that the those venues, okay? And if we do that right, then do we come back, because it is a living document, then we can figure out if we do it township-wide. So there's some thoughts of how to do this. It's not going to be one and done.
No, and that's what we want from planning commission, is how you think we should scale this, you know, how you think we should go about this, and then we'll take it from there.
So that's the thought process that we've already thought about.
All right, Susan?
Yeah, and thank you for the update, Ed, it's very helpful. And I had a chance to review the meeting today, and I took out of it that you wanted more information specifically from Penn State on what they're asking in order to inform you. And I appreciated the thought that went into asking for more information. I think that will be helpful to you, then you will be able to be helpful to us, so thank you for that.
Okay, that's, because without that, the canvas is so open, you don't really know what you're dealing with. And without some of that, it's almost like, what do you want us to do? And I think it's too wide open.
Understood. Tracy?
Can I just offer too, maybe if commission can look at, I know there's not a lot of college that have football stadiums the scale of Beaver Stadium. It's one of the bigger ones. But if I can offer maybe looking at how some other townships with a similar situation that might be helpful for you guys to kind of have like a starting point, because I understand that it can be overwhelming. But maybe if you look at another township similar to ours, it won't be the same scale, of course, because that's one of the larger stadiums for a college.
Staff has already looked into other areas that have sign ordinances that include entertainment venues, arenas, so on and so forth, that are very specific, maybe if it's 5,000 seats or more, or whatever, the signage can be different. So we've asked them to give us more examples of that, so we can start to look at those kind of things.
But in like but like in more of a rural type suburban area, because I think that's important too, because there's like the farm and there's the baseball field, like something very similar to that might help at a starting point.
And some of us have been at the Ohio States and the Michigans and the Iowas, and I know I have, because I like to take road trips for football games, but so you can see the different venues, but that doesn't mean that it's going to fit in, say, college.
Right.
Where you have
But I was
Columbus,
just saying, like,
Ohio,
maybe as a
which
start.
is totally different, so.
Yeah,
But
just
you-
as a starting point.
You have that opportunity. In other words, following up on what Tracy's saying, you guys see something you like and you think it fits, you craft the ordinance and the recommendation around that, and then that's what Penn State has to work with.
Yeah, real quick, just to interject here, I mean, one of the things that's pretty obvious, staff has some homework to do in terms of being able to provide the planning commission with the type of information that they can react to and begin to formulate some of these ideas, right? And Ed alluded to it, I mean, is it a UPD specific kind of ordinance? Is it township wide, but it's targeted to venues of a certain size, meaning or equating to a certain number of seats? And clearly, you know, it would have to be something that would be larger than what we might otherwise typically encounter in order to accommodate additional signage, right? So I think staff, we have talked about this already as a result of the initial meeting and the first review, the remand letter. So we know that there are a number of things that we need to investigate, and that we've identified the fact that we need to maybe look at some peer communities and some things that match up a little bit better to what we do have here in State College, although I will tell you that that's a tall task, right? But be that as it may, I mean, I think that there are a number of different types of examples that we can identify, bring back that information about how they're regulating signage on significant facilities or these entertainment venues, if you will. And so I think that's one thing to keep in mind here. We need to be able to provide PC with the tools and the information they need to be able to move forward.
And this year, our approach has been, since I've been the chair, and I'm not patting myself on the back by any stretch of the imagination, because staff has done a great job. I think the communications that the planning commission and staff this year has improved tremendously. We are getting things done in meetings, okay? We are having meetings with staff, at least I'm meeting with staff almost every other week, okay, before we go in the planning commission. So we're all singing out of the same hymn, okay? And then it's open to planning commission members to question whatever. But the message is getting out there of what council wants, how we want to go, so on and so forth. And we're not spinning our wheels, okay? We're getting things done. So I think that arrangement that we have done this year has helped tremendously.
Did you have a comment?
Just one last comment, if I may. So we had the request from Penn State Athletics to review the ordinance and to look at the signage. But there wasn't a specific ask around that request, so there weren't specifics associated with that. There's some ideas that are in progress, and so, having the opportunity to hear from Penn State Athletics was helpful. Hearing from the community is helpful too.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Okay.
All right, Ed, well, it's good to hear that
I didn't know I said that.
I thought you mentioned the apple.
Drop the mic.
because form-based code's a heavy lift, and then we throw this on top of that. It's good to know that things are proceeding efficiently, because there's no doubt another one behind this that we have no idea what it is.
But there again, we're putting timelines on. So if you put a timeline on, okay, it gives you a goal, okay? And I think, with the remand letter, council doesn't want us to take 4 months to get back to you, okay? So basically, some of these timelines may be self-imposed by staff and myself, but I think that's what you have to do, to be, responsive to you guys.
All right, we'll keep that in mind. If there aren't any further questions for Ed, we will move on to DEIB. Mike, anything to offer?
No, it provided the written report at the last meeting when I wasn't here. That kind of encapsulated the month, so nothing new to add tonight.
All right, and doesn't appear there's anyone here to address council on that issue, so we'll close reports and move the consent agenda. And tonight's consent agenda is,
Light?
yes, it is. There's only 2 items in tonight's consent agenda. One set of minutes under CA1, and that's the minutes from the August 7th, 2025 College Township regular meeting. And there's only one piece of correspondence under CA2, and that is CA2A, an email from Dan Materna dated April 14th, 2025 regarding the casino. Nothing under CA3. Would anyone like either of those 2 items pulled before I consider a motion to accept the accept the consent agenda? Going once, twice. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
I have a motion from Dustin and a second from Tracy. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Consent agenda accepted. That moves us to old business. Tonight we have 1 item under old business, potential action item. However, we'll see how that goes. OB1, Gray Star Development and Path to Campus. I'll say, given the time we have here tonight, I would just like to share before we turn it over to staff that we have a couple of choices presented to us in the packet tonight. And until today, there was really just the 2 maps. Right, and then today, I think the important thing for us to do in the time we spend on this agenda item is make sure that all of us understand the 2 options. We don't necessarily have to settle on one tonight, unless we do. But I think I want to make sure we spend the time fully understanding the pros and cons, the impacts of both, And should that lead us to action, that's fine, but that's not necessarily the goal. So we have,
Yes, we have a representative from Keller here, and I see he's still awake.
still here, just here.
I'm Rick Drainer, Keller Engineers. I don't know if you're able to put the pictures up on the screen or not. There are
Which
the-
one
the
would you
options.
prefer first?
Option one.
Option one?
So, I guess the whole, the
Can
project
you make that full
is
screen?
Yeah, it's massive, so.
yeah, it's, I got a little over, half mile trail here, or shared use path is what it is. It's gonna start down at Ponytown Road, travel up here, I'm gonna go backwards from where the line
Okay,
is.
you want to go Puddintown first?
Well, yeah, it's kind of where it terminates.
Yep.
Yeah, it's gonna start down here, Ponytown Road. And it's gonna travel along 26, SR 26, over to Porter Road, where it's going to cross Porter Road. There were 3 alternatives that were presented at PennDOT that are in review right now. Tonight's discussion is from Porter Road up to Hastings Road, or the student housing development from Greystar. We put together the first alternative, or option, I believe is what we call it. It comes around here, there's a switchback that comes up. I believe there's around 1,500 feet of switchback here. This is all Penn State owned land. And we were asked to tie to the Greystar development. We were given a plan from Greystar, and from best we could see, there was a 10-foot sidewalk just laying out here. So we assumed that's where they kind of wanted us to tie to. So they did not provide an elevation there. We just went off of the existing elevations of the parking lot near one lot. It's for the tie of it. So this whole path here is all designed based on AASHTO and PennDOT guidance. With that guidance, the maximum grade is 5% for the length of the path up and along there. And if you could go down to the profile there, was trying to hold 5% up through here. This darker line is the 5% line. The jagged is the existing ground out there now. As we come up through here, you can see the significant fuel amount in there. I think we hit like 20 feet in here in spots of fuel we're gonna have to put into until we come up here and tie to the development. After we got through all that and seen how much fuel material we're putting in there and the extra expense, we came up with a option 2. If you're able to switch to option 2. And option 2 is, I believe was what the original grant was.
Yes.
Yeah. So again, we're only looking from Porter Road out. So from Porter Road, we're doing the same switchback. The switchback is able to be a little bit shortened. I think it's 1,200 feet for the switchback here. And then we'll go along, instead of tying up here to the Greystar development, we're gonna just keep going around, go around their detention ponds, and come up and tie to the sidewalk up on Hastings. This trail, you can see, is longer, and with it being longer, if we go down to the profile, you can see with the holding the 5% maximum grade, we're able to more mimic the existing ground and reduce the amount of fuel needed tremendously. I think it's 25,000 cubic yards of fuel we've reduced. With that, we put a cost estimate together for the entire project, but we were curious of the fuel versus the longer amount of trail. The trail is, as of now, going to be all asphalt, 10-foot wide shared use path. With that, we came up with the option 1 is around 3.2 million, and option 2 is around 2.6, I believe. My printer kind of messed up on me here. So I believe there's a $700,000 difference between the 2 options. Some of the pros and cons, the the option one, it would shorten the trail. I'm not sure what the maintenance agreement is between the college and the township, but if the township has all maintenance responsibility, we should shorten your maintenance responsibility of the trail. The option two obviously lowers the cost of the project. And option two also, you can look at constructing this trail without waiting for the development to be constructed. So you'd be able to work independently and not have to wait. I believe it was 2028 was.
Yes, 2028 would be when they would be open enough that we would actually, they would have their portion of that path built.
Now with option two, the longer trail, as you can see here, is obviously going to have a little bit more environmental impacts, being longer. I believe there is a right-of-way fence if you're from the Pendleton Highway. Along there, there's some bigger trees that are iffy. There's a row of pine trees there that might have to, in between, I believe, I don't know if it's up here, the fence area, that may be impacted with the longer on the trail. So that was, that's the main negative, I guess, of the option two. With it being, the big plus is the lower cost.
Yeah, and originally our schedule was to be into construction summer of '26. So there would be, we'd have to coordinate somehow with Gray Star, some kind of a temporary path that would then take it from where we stopped to somewhere along Hastings. I think that's going to be
You're talking about option one, Don?
Yes. Yeah, that's going to be an issue, like how would we actually have a temporary connection there?
Okay, so for tonight, the intent is to try to get a consensus, general consensus from council so that Keller or staff can approach Penn State about easements right away.
Yeah, I think essentially what we want to try to do here is to get a feel for what council's preference is. It's not necessarily a final decision, but we're looking to try to get a consensus on the preference of these two particular options. One of the things, and it's been a while now, but one of the things to keep in mind is that referring to option two, we did in fact make contact with Penn State, and Penn State Real Estate reviewed this, and Penn State Real Estate made a recommendation to the board of directors, who with the option 2-esque alignment had agreed that they would provide the necessary easements on Penn State property for that particular alignment. The reason it's important for us to get some kind of a consensus here on which option council prefers is because we had no such conversation with them on the alignment as per option one. And that may or may not make a difference to Penn State, but if there is a preference for option one, that clearly indicates a need for us to go back and reaffirm the university's agreement to participate in those easements. So that's one of the reasons why this is here before you tonight. Keller Engineering still continues to work on design. In particular, you're working at the moment on the crossing at Port Road. They have the ability to do work from Puddintown Road essentially to Port Road, but at some point this switchback, whether it's option one or option two, comes into play, and that's going to impact design. So I think it's really important that to the extent we can get a consensus on a particular option, that informs what we need to do administratively with Penn State, and it would also obviously assist Keller in moving forward with some of the design work.
Okay, Then let's go to questions. Dustin, questions on either one of the options?
Yeah, just questions real quick on clarification. Yeah, so essentially with option one, it would really terminate at there where it connects into that development, right, into that student housing.
Can we flip back to option one?
That's,
Yeah, so that's essentially where it would terminate. So after that, we have no idea where it goes, right? Just-
Other than
yeah,
their,
side comments.
it shows it going up through here
Yeah.
and possibly coming to Hastings Road.
Yeah, and the only information we have at this point, mind you, is the sketch plan presentation that we have received from Greystar. And they did indicate that their 10-foot sidewalk was in fact going to be connected to Hastings. So both of these projects end up in the same place-ish, but they may vary slightly.
Okay.
Other questions?
Yeah, just for clarifying, with option one, we're disturbing more of the earth, right, excavation, is that correct? And the second one is more going with the grain of the earth?
Correct, yes, yeah, option one, definitely, we're gonna be creating a lot more fill that they're gonna have to
Right.
haul in, a lot more earth. It will, if you go back to the switch back there, I don't know if you see the drill, there's some faint, the red lines here are the limits of the fill there, that is creating with that great big fill in there. Option two is longer, so it kind of disturbs not as much fill or earthwork, but does follow the grade better.
Thank you. I thought that's what you said. I want to make sure. Thank you.
Dustin, do you have anything else?
No, good, thanks.
Susan?
Well, I can tell you I favor option one, which is not through Greystar.
jumping the gun, right?
Well, I've looked at it a lot, I did, so I can say, looking at this,
So wait, that's two, you're saying two.
Yeah, two goes around
okay,
the
that's
development.
right, I am confused, the option one and option two. Some of the concerns I have with the Greystar would be, we don't know where it's going, but if it does go in the general direction of the 10-foot sidewalk path, that would take you across the front of that building where there would be pedestrian walkways into that parking lot. So that would create a lot of pedestrian traffic across that particular part of the trail, which I don't know how that would be managed. I'm thinking of people who are using this path to campus, trying to use it as part of their commute. So that might slow down the commute, even though the other option, going around Greystar would be a little bit longer, but it wouldn't add substantially. It might even actually be shorter if you had to stop for pedestrians. So that was one of the things that came up to me, but we don't know exactly where that would go, so that's another concern. And also, the cost is quite different. It's 27% difference in the two cost estimates. And then there is the time delay. So this is something, listening to everybody here, you've been working on this long before I got here. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Sure. Rich?
Save money, save time? Yes.
Yeah. And then I would add, go back to what Adam said, it appears that option two, the skids have at least been greased as far as easement goes with Penn State. Option two, option one would be a very different conversation, probably with Penn State. And then, of course, throw in all the reasons already mentioned. So it seems as though we don't,
Are we offering consensus now?
well,
Or questions?
the question started down the road with consensus, so I'm now moving to consensus.
Okay.
If there are no more questions, Susan.
No more questions.
And Rich kind of provided their consensus. I'm going back across the room here.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with consensus, less time, less money, right? I would just offer that I really think option two is more inclusive. It's supposed to be a path to campus, not a path to Greystar, right? So, that takes you into campus, it takes you on to Hastings, it's more inclusive to everybody. I think it actually could deter people to use it if it goes directly to Greystar, and some of the points that Susan had made too. And there's a lot of unknowns there yet, which is also a time factor.
And I agree with everything stated, but also the fact that we're going to disturb less of the earth. And that's important,
It's $700,000 important.
That part is true.
27% important.
Right. So I think it's good all the way around, and I would agree with the consensus.
It's correct that the earth disturbance is one of the biggest contributors to the cost savings.
Yeah, that's
That
the
Phil?
main, yeah.
Great.
When you look at the
Phil,
cost
it's like-
estimate, the breakdown on the cost
Yeah.
estimate, that's where the cost increase is.
Right.
All right, so it seems as though we have a consensus. That was easier than I thought it would be. Refreshing. So we don't really need action, do we? I mean, is this enough of a
At
consensus?
this point, I think the consensus is sufficient. We've already, we've already contracted with Keller to do the design. It's obviously kind of important in order to finish that you know where you're going and how it's going to be. The other factor that was driving this is what I said before, had to do with the previous agreements, arrangements that were in place with Penn State, and whether or not we needed to go back and say, hey, there need to be some modifications here, is it still okay? Given that we have consensus around our option 2 here, I don't think that that's really necessary. So that eliminates an issue there. One of the other things that I think that this does is, one of the elements that Penn State is very interested in is lighting for the path. And this may also present an opportunity for us now that we've identified a preferred option about what we want to discuss with Greystar relative to participation with respect to that lighting. So I think having this direction helps us in a number of ways to kind of advance the project overall. So there's not a need for a formal motion at this point in time, unless somebody else on staff thinks that we really need to have one. I think this is sufficient.
Happy to comply. All right. Thank you so much for sitting here half the night.
Sign me up. We're excellent. Okay, so we will move forward with option 2, and I'll start with the environmental clearances.
Great.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
All right. That concludes our only old business item. That takes us to our only new business item, NB1, which is Post Office Delineator Project. This is a potential action item. Staff has outlined the rationale, or the history and rationale behind the recommendation. Does, Mike, your name's on the memo.
So you waited all night to hear from me. I would just hit the high points, quite honestly. This is based around an ongoing concern with the property owner adjacent to the Lamont Post Office. They have had on numerous occasions their landscaping being damaged by large delivery trucks moving in and out of the rear entry to the post office. We tried to encapsulate all this to one, inform council, and I know we've been keeping you informed throughout these discussions, but also inform them for matter of record as to what all has led to this point and this recommendation. And this goes back 34 years to a 1991 easement that, amongst other things, granted this landscaping easement to the property owner to plant these plants, install, maintain them at their discretion, and defined all those elements. As this issue has transpired over a couple years now, I think what we wanted to show was the township trying to be accommodating. We've made a number of efforts with varying degrees of success to try to mitigate this problem. Obviously, we're the property owner and leaseholder with the post office, but that does not allow us to directly impact postal service or operations. What's been identified during the course of this is oftentimes Amazon is the delivery entity and their contractors that are causing the problem. We've reached out to them on numerous occasions. Multiple staff members have tried to make contact to no avail. The postmaster has tried to make contact to no avail. Recognizing that point, then we went into the defensive measure mode and did an installation of 3 to 4, I think it's 4 delineators to aid drivers that are in that parking lot to identify where that curb line is. That's been limited in its success. Obviously, this has continued to happen. They continue to back into the arborvitae that's planted there. Most recently, we did reach out to Congressman Thompson's office to see if they could provide any assistance. Their initial response was positive. Still awaiting any further follow-up at this point. We did have some discussions about other options, because really we're stuck in that defensive mode at this point. We've had discussions about more permanent physical barriers right there at the curb line. 2 of those, the first 2 decorative pipe-style bollards and guide rail behind the curb line were both rejected by the homeowner for a variety of reasons outlined in the memo. That homeowner did put forward an idea of a guide rail within the parking lot, which the township rejected because we don't want to put an obstruction within the parking lot that could compound a problem. So with that said, the homeowner has stated their preference is installation of additional curb-mounted delineators on 3-foot intervals. I want to go on record as saying township staff acknowledges that request, but also has reservations as to the level of effectiveness of that defensive measure. But it appears to be the only remaining arrow in the quiver in terms of our options. So again, trying to be accommodating, we bring forward this recommendation to you. The project has been initially scoped out as installation of 22 delineators. I'll note 22 may actually be a high number. That may get scaled down a little bit as we get in there and look at it a little bit closer. But we wanted to give you kind of the worst case scenario. All said, 22 delineators, the glue, the epoxy to adhere those, and our staff time, you're looking at a project of roughly $4,240. Timeline on those, actually, the timeline is stretched by the amount of time it takes to get the delineators in, so you're looking at anywhere 4 to 8 weeks. The homeowner has been notified that if it is council's purview to advance this project, that there will ultimately have to do some pruning of the arborvitae to accommodate that. Delineators are essentially a visual barrier. In order for those to be seen, the arborvitae needs to be cut back so you can actually see the delineators. So they're aware of that. The reason it's in front of you, 1, wanted to encapsulate this, but 2, it's also an unbudgeted project here in 2025, so we wanted to get council's confirmation and obviously a discussion around this issue before any action was taken.
Thank you, Mike. Is this a little bit like putting up a sign that says no through traffic?
A little bit.
Is there any questions about what Mike has outlined here and what's being asked of council tonight? Dustin?
Can we just see what a delineator is for those of us that have never seen one? I'm going to pretend I've never seen one.
We can find one. I can share one.
Sheets and rudders?
Can you Google it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
Google it.
Is that an example of what they have with sheets and rudders down at Duncannon?
Yeah, that's
Well, yeah, I mean, that's very similar. I'm not sure which particular style might, maybe you and Amy might have discussed.
Yeah, I think we're probably looking, let me see if I can pull this one up here, share.
So they come in 2 different types primarily. They're usually very tall and skinny, and orange is one. And in some cases, they are maybe not quite as tall and a little flatter, and typically are white. But both are flexible. If they get bumped or hit, they tend to move when they're designed that way. There's usually a heavy-duty spring involved at the base, and so that's essentially what they are. They are certainly not, and don't function the same way as a guide rail. or a guardrail?
Yeah, what I share here is actually, I'm splitting the difference. This is one of the round ones in the white, but with the flexible base. I think what's out there right now is the more thin version. It has the reflectors at the top. But yeah, they function the same way. These ones tend to be a little bit more rigid than the flatter ones. But end of the day, they're not made to physically be a barrier between contact. They just serve as a visual reference and try to keep you from moving beyond that line.
Tracy?
Yeah, I have a quick question about so the homeowner is not okay with putting the guardrail in, but they're okay with losing part of their yard to add more of these.
These would be mounted right on the curb line.
Got you, okay. And they're okay with it looking like that opposed to a guardrail, it's more uniform.
That's their preference.
What, question on the guardrail, was the guardrail also going to be right on top of the curb?
Now, the guardrail would have to be set back. So basically, you could flush mount the guardrail to the edge of the sidewalk, but the actual poles would be set back behind the curb line. And that was one of the points of their concern, was to auger the post holes for those could potentially kill the arborvitae. They were worried about that damage and some excessive pruning that would need to happen to provide that clear for that installation. And the aesthetics was also raised. I think they were envisioning your kind of traditional silver guide rail. We would most likely do something of a painted application, but it would still have to have that visual element to it to be able to be seen.
So, can I ask another question? So you said that there's already some up, but it's like not preventing.
Right.
So yeah. How is it going to prevent it?
This is
Right.
go through traffic sign.
Right, got you. So like, what are they hoping to me, that would be more of an eyesore with more there opposed to a guardrail. Like, what are they hoping to prevent? Like, is there anything that they're hoping to prevent what's coming up?
Honestly, that's where staff comes down to, Tracy, is, I think it's a recognition of trying to preserve their landscaping, and not do something that could harm that and not, kind of move into their property. And this is really the last option that seems to be available out there. But staff shares your concern.
Yeah.
That
it seems like just putting a Band-Aid on it, if you put the rail in, that could ultimately prevent the problem that they're, even though it would require pruning, but it could prevent the damage to the actual landscape that they want to preserve.
Yeah, that, and you're exactly right. I mean, that's a more permanent physical barrier to the impact. I understand the concerns, but we share some concerns here is, okay, there could be an outlay on a project and it could happen tomorrow. Someone could back right through them and we'll be at this point. And at that point, we're done. We've exhausted all the options that I think are at our disposal. The only thing that remains out there is potentially that help from Congressman Thompson's office, or changes in how the delivery structure works. Obviously, Amazon's moving towards different technology, and we have a warehouse coming in out the road that may change how they deliver to the post office, but those are all ifs.
That'll be another issue.
Dustin, do you have a...
Did you guys get a cost estimate on the guardrail installation?
We did some back of the envelope estimates. This one came in higher than I was initially expecting. So the guide rail itself, I would venture, is probably more in the $5,000 to $7,000 range, but we'd have to do a little bit of calculations on that to get you a more finite number.
Okay, so it's conceivable then that if council were to support this option, it could be understood that if the guardrail is unacceptable at this point and council goes down the road with this option, there is no going back to the guardrail.
Correct.
Would that be a fair consensus opinion of council?
Yep.
Is if you don't want to go down this road, then this is it.
Can I just make a comment? I agree. I I don't the trees are being destroyed now with them being backed into. So if we put a guardrail in that, right, we understand that that stops them being backed into, right? You could replant the trees and now they're not being backed into. Is that, did anybody else see that?
Yeah, I think that's what I was making.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. I'm not in favor of spending, I'm honestly not in favor of spending any money on this right now because I don't think this is the correct solution. That's my point.
But if we do, it could be with the understanding that this is what we're spending on. There's no going back to the guardrails if this doesn't work.
And the only other option that we see, and has already been expressed that the homeowner is not interested in this, is adjustments to the easement.
Right.
So they're not,
It's our property.
it's our property.
The landscaping is on.
That the
Thank you for
landscaping is
clarifying.
on.
Gotcha, okay.
So
But they're
it's
not-
part of the original post office property. And that easement was granted back in 1991.
Yeah, we dug that up
40
a couple
years
years
ago.
ago, right? Yeah.
And so in the intervening time, a portion of that easement's been utilized as a driveway for the adjacent dwelling, and the balance of it has been placed in landscape. And that's the nature, that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah, I guess, if I may say, it's a little concerning that they're not wanting to be flexible, but they want us to solve the problem. So I'm just wanting to put that on the record.
Or you could say they are being flexible with the flexible posts. Sorry. I had to say-
Wow.
Yeah.
It's at that
But it's-
time.
I mean,
It's
we're
that time.
trying to offer
And
solutions,
41.
but they're not willing to be
Right.
flexible.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
You know, again, this, short of saying it, you know, this is a reflection of us trying to be accommodating, but accommodations have limits.
Correct.
Okay, and then I think there seemed to be a nodding of the heads when I offered a limitation to this, should we support it? So if that is the case, indeed the case, is anyone interested in moving to approve the following project?
I was going to say, I had
Yeah.
a couple questions. But okay, go ahead.
Yeah, you go ahead. I went first last time. You go first. This side of the
Hold
table.
quiet on the eastern front.
We were waiting.
We were premature in providing the consensus last
You guys
time.
talk.
So now,
Well, so we jumped the gun this
ostracized.
time.
Yeah, we jumped the gun on this end.
All right, everything in balance.
Yeah, I'm just sorry, I'm in my 9:45 mode.
Oh, yeah, I gather. I gather. Where would you rather be? So so the one question got answered in the curb is on our property, and the vegetation is on our property and everything. The question I had on the bollards, were you looking at behind the curb or in front of the curb?
Bollards were behind the curb.
Behind the curb, okay.
Yeah, again, we're trying to
Yep.
keep those obstructions out of the parking lot.
Agreed. And the other side about the bollard and or the guide rail is if they're hitting the landscape, they're gonna hit those too. And then it's on us then they become unsightly and then they become, ours to deal with. Because then the post office will be saying, they don't like them. And we have an obligation to them. But, yeah, I share many of Dustin's thoughts. I've seen the delineators, and aesthetically, I don't think it's going to be very good, and I don't think they're going to be very effective, so I'm just very leery about the expense of that in general.
Susan?
First, I want to acknowledge staff. There's been a huge amount of staff time and effort put into this work and bringing this forward in a 1 or 2 page document. So thank you very much for that. And I share Dustin and Rich's concerns. You know, we're trying to be flexible, work with the homeowner, and that does mean a lot of back and forth to come to this conclusion. But if the solution is to protect the plantings on the easement, which is the township's property, this isn't going to solve that, and it is clear we can't control Amazon. So I favor it in the interest of being flexible. We were flexible in entering into the easement agreement all those years ago. But if we do that, I think it's really important that we emphasize that this is the last chance, that this is the last attempt to mitigate the problem, that we've done what we can. So,
Anyone else?
I would have to say I agree with that as well. I agree with Dustin because I've made the point that it doesn't seem like it's going to solve the problem. But if we're being flexible, I would agree that we have to be firm. This is the matter. This is what we're going to agree on. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I feel bad that we could be potentially out of money in a sense, you know. But
This is putting up the sign that says no through
Right.
traffic.
It's, you know, I mean, to, the unspoken thing here, this isn't gonna work,
no, it's not.
okay?
It's spoken now.
It's, I mean,
Again.
it's just, again.
It's already spoken.
Right. But this isn't gonna fix it. What's gonna fix it are either potentially bollards or a guide rail. That's it. Those are the options. And at this point in time, the owner, or the property owner is not interested in entertaining the proper installation of those elements within that easement. So I would suggest to you that doing nothing is an option.
No?
I wanted to beat Mike to the punch. I mean, but seriously, I don't believe that this is going to be satisfactory, likely to anyone, as far as the solution is concerned. But it is a solution, and it can be a vital solution. We just have to, we as a township have to recognize the type of vital solution that may be.
You know, I would offer that it is a solution in the sense that staff has done everything that it possibly can to accommodate the property owner, and this is where we're at. A solution that in all likelihood is going to be minimally effective. But it is a solution in that sense, in the sense that it could conceivably close the conversation permanently,
Absolutely.
if that is the desire of this group here, to approve it under that condition. So if there aren't any further questions, is there interest in a motion to approve a project that we have, I won't say it, approve the project as outlined in the memo, which includes an installation of 22 delineators in the noted area. Does anyone want to make that motion? I mean, it could just die without a motion or without a second. All right, I'll put it out there, and then it can die without a second. I move to authorize staff to move forward with the project outlined in Mr. Bloom's memo, August 18th, dated August 18th, 2025, that details the solution to that details the installation of 22 delineators at the post office. There's a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. I have a second. Discussion?
Yeah, just, I mean, yeah, I can't get, I mean, it's an unbudgeted cost. I mean, yeah, it's only a couple, $4,000, but I mean, this is, I don't view this as very inclusive to the remainder of the township either. I mean, this is one resident. I mean, I hate to say that, but, you know, spending $4,000 on that is not something that I'm going to support.
I agree. And
On a solution that won't fix it, that's what I'm at. Like, I'm all for spending some money on a solution that will fix the problem, but I don't see it fixing the problem.
And the solution is to support staff in trying to bring this to a conclusion in terms of ongoing staff effort to bring this to a conclusion. That is the primary support to do this. But I seconded the motion because I think it is, your point is well taken, Dustin, and I think if that is the point that we're making, we should take a vote and we should make that point as a vote.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're setting a precedent.
Okay, so
We're giving staff direction either way.
Right.
Yeah, and to Adam's point, a vote in the other direction is also
A decision.
a decision, and, it's basically saying, it's the same thing. It brings the process to an end, it does this process.
Yep.
All right, any further discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I just want to say, I do understand Susan's point of supporting staff, and I'm very appreciative of what staff has done. But my apprehension to this is, it is one person, and it's like, if I kick and scream, like, I'm not willing to budge anyway, and I want it the way I want it. And so, I don't think we should, I don't agree with giving into a temper tantrum. Yes, because there were so many options that were laid out, they were not willing to meet us halfway. It's just this way or no way. And that's where I kind of am wrestling with voting to give it. I'm just being honest where I'm coming from.
Yeah, well,
And I don't think-
there's
I
nothing
think-
wrong with voting against the motion.
And I want to say also too, I think it's kind of like the signage in the area where that had came before us some months back, the different signage that is in the one. You know, it's important, but maybe just not now. Like, is this important that we have to spend $4,000 on now for one person? That was affecting more people had something to say about the signage, you know, and we kind of voted that it wasn't relative to right now. And I kind of feel like this is similar to that, if I can't say that.
No, well, any other questions on the motion? I can kind of see where this motion's going. So, but I think it was important symbolically
Yeah.
to go through this exercise, and I think the discussion was good. It's healthy. All right, then the chair will call the question. All in favor of the motion, please, if anyone is in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Aye.
All right. Motion does not carry.
Thank you.
Sure. That is our only new business item, and that takes us to staff informatives. And does anyone have any question on staff informatives, or would staff feel necessary to inform us further on any of those?
No, I think it's well documented about various identifications of West Nile virus in the center region area. We've had several mosquitoes test positive from various locations within the township. So, please, everyone, be on guard relative to standing water and dress appropriately when outside. So, yes.
If I may, I did call the county health department to see, West Nile virus is a reportable infectious disease, and we've had no reported cases of West Nile infection. That doesn't mean we don't have it. It's going to feel like a bad flu. So, but, yeah, I wanted to see if we actually had reported cases yet, and we don't.
I appreciate you making that distinction, because generally reading in the media, you may not make that distinction.
Right, right. And people who do get West Nile virus are going to feel sick, but they may feel that they have a flu or something like that. But if it progresses, and they are past several days, or they're having any kind of, neuro changes, they should go and get checked out quickly, because that's where it becomes a problem.
So Susan, I'm only asking this based off your experience. So if I were to get sick and I went to the hospital or went to my doctor, being that there was found in the county, would they have to test me for West Nile?
I don't know if they would have to, but I know we get guidance that we should be aware when there are mosquitoes that test positive, and we're all given guidance to be aware of more insect-borne illnesses like Lyme disease, like West Nile virus, and also things, other insect-borne illnesses. So when someone comes with general symptoms, that's one of the things you want to consider.
Symptomatic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So is the test similar to check for antibodies, fighting it?
So you would test for the presence of the virus, in this case. Other diseases you might check for other types of things,
So these are
titers for West Nile
definitive
virus.
tests
Yeah, but again, it would be symptomatic, in the case of West Nile virus, you would be treating symptoms of being ill from a virus, but then you'd be watching for progression to something like encephalitis or meningitis, which in some cases does occur, and that's why it's a serious infectious. So, but the point is, and it comes back to the cap, we have longer, hotter summers, and we have more water, and we have more standing water, which means we will have more insect-borne illnesses. So it's great that the township, gets the word out.
All right. On that positive note,
Nothing like encephalitis to shut down.
On one of the other staff informatives to the zoning officer, just any background on Redwood Lane?
As far
Sent
as,
5, Lane has become overgrown, sent 5 letters. I don't think I've ever seen you send 5 letters.
well, that would be Frank.
Frank? Okay.
But the problem is certain services don't want to go in there, run their trucks in there, even like our trucks, we don't want to go in there for brush collection and scrape up our trucks to get back to the houses. And so it's upon that private street to trim it back before.
Or don't get the services.
Correct.
We're not going to get the service. Okay.
Is there-
So just understanding, but it also potentially, first responders, emergency vehicles and stuff, they'll get through, I understand.
Yes.
But still.
Which is, short of, again, it's problematic because it's a private road. If it was a public road and we had those circumstances,
You just do it.
there'd
You
be
take care
one
of it.
letter,
Yeah.
and then we would just take care of it.
Okay, so that's kind of the gist of it. It's a private lane. We can't go in and correct the situation even after 5 letters.
Correct. Just like
Okay.
we couldn't go in and mow your lawn if you didn't want to do it. We
You're
could
welcome
contract
to.
somebody, but we can't.
I will give you permission right here, right now.
There'd be a lot of people not mowing lawns.
I don't want to keep the meeting
You got a
going
lot
forever,
more.
but I have a question. Is there a portion of Redwood Lane that is particularly overgrown, or, there are 4 or 5 houses back there?
This is what, Frank's been dealing
Okay.
with this, I haven't been back
Okay.
there. We've had similar things on Green Acres. and-
Spring, Spring Hill. or
Yeah,
Spring-
it's-
yeah. Yep,
All right, thank you,
that's the distinction. It's a private lane.
thank you.
You need the property owners to resolve the issue.
Yes.
Thank you.
all right, that takes us to other matters. Are there any other matters? Staff?
I have an informative, I think. Very quickly on the Chamber has having the annual Voice of Business, the State of the County. That's going to be on Tuesday, September 16th. A few of us have been registered already, but if there is interest on the part of other members of council, I think Eric is registered, I think I'm registered, but if there are other individuals of council that are interested in attending, please let us know, and we will get the registrations made. That was it.
Anything else? All right, council, other matters. Tracy, Dustin, no? Rich, Susan, no? How about a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. We're adjourned.